Hi guys, this is Trinity and you're watching Esoteric Truth Radio. I always come a couple of minutes early to my lives. I'm going to be covering a lot more than I thought. I want to kind of share this little story really quick before I start. So when I go live, right, and I know people watch after. They don't really watch when I'm live. So I caught myself, well, somebody kind of brought it up to me. I got a DM from somebody, I'm not going to say who it was, and they kind of brought to my attention that I'm constantly kind of apologizing, like I'm expecting people to show up, and I have to stop doing that. So because I just got, because I just started using Live, I didn't know that it was like public, like anybody can watch it. They don't have to be in here to watch it. So they were just reassuring me that yes, people are watching. They might not be in the room, but for me not to be concerned with anybody being here because there are people here. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate anybody who's kind of here, and that it makes me feel like I'm not talking into the void, which is fantastic. And I decided that I will be doing my long-form content. I tried it in bursts, and even though it seemed like I was kind of getting it together, it was throwing me off a lot. I've been on radio for a long time, and most of the shows are always 2 hours. Like if you find any of my older content, it's definitely 2 hours, sometimes a little bit over 2 hours. So I'm just gonna kind of do what makes me feel comfortable and happy. And I think I get more views when I'm doing long form content. So I just want to throw this out there as well. Earlier today, I had kind of hurt myself walking because of course it's my first day. And I have a brace, and I decided not to wear it, but I did take something because I'm in pain. So if I'm a little off, you're not seeing things. I'm going to try to do this as long as I can. I kind of want to talk about stuff that just happened, and then we're going to go into everything else, because this is going to be really, 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 really good. So before I get into it, because it's 7 o'clock on the dot, before I get into this, I kind of want to, if you can, go back and see the front part of my page. A couple of minutes ago, I posted something. Forbes just put out a photo of the top billionaires, right? Because I think, what's his name? Musk just went into the trillions, right? So they had like 5 people in the photo. I can't show it here because I don't know how to do that. But they had, hold on a second, because I just posted it. And I thought it was weird. So I screenshotted it immediately. I see something weird, I screenshot it. So I screenshotted this that I saw in my feed. And it says Forbes. Excuse me. So it says Elon Musk, number 1. Number 2 is Larry Page. Number 3 is Sergey Brin. Number 4 is Jeff Bezos. And then number 5 is Mark Zuckerberg. So here's the thing that they did. And I thought it was weird. Number 3, Sergey Brin, the photo they have of him is Epstein. You can look on my page. That's the actual photo they put up. So I screenshotted it. I went back to Forbes to find out if they still had it up. And I put the photo, and I put the exact same thing. I said, who are the top 5 billionaires of 2026? And now it says, we can't find that page that you're looking for, search Forbes. So the photo's gone. Now they have like individual photos, but I'm sure somebody caught the mistake. Or was it a mistake? Anyway, I thought that was pretty awesome. So now you have a screenshot, and you can check it out for yourself. Okay. There were some things that I kind of wanted to cover a little bit. Oh, by the way, so I had to look up Sergey Brin because I was like, who would make a mistake like that? It's like his mugshot photo. And I was like, there's something going on with this. I don't know what it is, but that should have been there. So, of course, I had to look up Sergey Brin. And I was like, well, like, is that an alias or something like that? So I went ahead and looked into it. And it's not an alias or anything like that. But he's in Epstein files. Sergey Brin has been associated with Jeffrey Epstein due to reports indicating that Brin attended a few events that Epstein hosted or was involved in. However, there's no substantial evidence. You already know what that means. Epstein was a financier. We already know what Epstein was. And I was like, okay. That's great. Then I had to figure out who Larry Page was, because he's the second behind Musk. How come he's also in the files? He's also in the files. So I had to find out who owned Google. You think I would know that, right? I kind of don't, because they switch up like constantly. So it's a place called Alphabet Inc. And they were also in a lot of trouble all the time. So for data mining and privacy invasion, we already know that. Search engine manipulation, we know that. By the way, use DuckDuckGo. That's when I do research, especially, and have a VPN. Use DuckDuckGo, because they're going to show you results that you're not going to find on Google. Control of AI development, we already kind of knew that. And market dominance and monopolies, right? And we already know that. I really don't have to cover any of that stuff. But I wanted to just tell you who the company was. So we got Sergey Brin. Again, I cannot believe they put that photo out. That is bonkers that they did that. Okay, there was something else I wanted to cover as well. So they had just announced, and I think I brought this up about a week ago, that we were coming towards the end for the nuclear deal, the nuclear treaty. And that was just kind of this deal that we always had, that we had the opportunity to go to other countries and check out their stuff unannounced. We could just say, hey, your facilities, we get to walk through. We get to do whatever the hell we want. So the one between Russia and us expired today. And that's why I did a show about it last week, because I was like, that doesn't seem right. But it does. Here's why. Marco Rubio went on TV and said that the only reason why we didn't put the deal back into place is because China wasn't in the treaty. That doesn't matter. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The fact that they let it lapse. Now, here's the shit kicker. Putin said he wanted to expand it for another year because he already knows we're sneaky. He already knows that you can't trust this. Even he doesn't trust Trump. And Trump is like, no, if China's not on the table, I'm not signing anything. So it lapsed. Now, here's the problem. Because it lapsed, that means everybody can just do whatever the hell they want. That means as soon as that announcement was made, every other country could just immediately start making as many nuclear weapons as they want. When they canceled the treaty, that was for everybody. Okay, they asked Europe, because I watched some of it. I didn't want to watch the whole thing. So it was pretty much the beginning part. And it was saying, they asked if they were concerned about the treaty. And they were like, absolutely. And they asked them, well, why are you so concerned? And it was like, not just that they didn't get the treaty. They were like, we can't trust the United States anymore to protect us. You know what I mean? So like this whole superpower situation we got going on here, there's a literal reason. And oh my God, wait until I get the other reason. Anyway, they're like, we can't trust you. We cannot trust it. That's a huge problem. Because if anything happened to us, nobody's going to come to our defense either. And yes, if you're here and you're like, oh my God, we're the best, get that out of your mind. When the world is doing this, that's something completely different. That's like you getting on a one-on-one fight and then a bunch of people decide to jump in and get into the fight with them. So the treaty, if let's say Russia and Europe would have gotten to a fight, right? A one-on-one. Usually we would have been the one to get in the middle and say, this got to be a fair fight. Not anymore. We squashed all of that shit today. I also wanted to bring this up because I saw this yesterday. No, a couple of days ago. I watched live the Doomsday Clock, and we're 85 seconds to midnight, and that's the closest we ever been. What they covered was AI, climate change, and Trump's name came up a lot, which wasn't surprising at all. Here was the surprise. Usually when I find something like that, I kind of go into the comment sections. I don't write anything, but I want to read, what everybody else thinks. Jesus Christ. The amount of people that were like, oh, that doesn't matter. Oh, they change it up all the time. It goes forward and backward. Yes, it does, because it's based on what's going on at the time. So if it was something in the 60s and the clock went back, or we go forward anyway, if we go back and forth, that's based on what's happening at that time. The fact that nobody knew that, And they were angry, and they were like, we can't trust the clock. They're just stupid. No, they're not. They're saying things that make absolute sense. And like I said, if you use the word AI, then you use the word nuclear, then you use climate change, you throw Trump's name. They didn't say the U.S. They called him out by name. This dude is going to get us into something. But I don't want to get into what I think that is. I usually do that at the end. Okay. I don't know what's up with my neighbors. It literally sounded like they dropped the bowling ball earlier. So we hear any like jumping around. I don't know if they got kids up there today. Anyway, they're usually not that loud. Anyway, so let's get back into the continuation of, I don't want to get into the Franklin scandal. Some of it's going to be about that, but I want to talk about something else. So there's a movie, God forbid I went and I found out what the name of the movie is, but it was a movie, but there was a documentary about this kid that wound up missing in Nebraska. And it became a really big thing. So he winds up missing. There's a photo of, well, they think it's him. There's a photo of him laying on the bed. He's got duct tape on his mouth. Oh my God, I didn't do the trigger warning. My bad. Trigger warning. So there was a photo of him, or they think it was him. That's alleged. That he had duct tape on his mouth and he was pretty much hogtied. And then the mom came out and she was like, that's definitely my son. Years later, she claims that he came to the house. He was like, I'm all right. I can't get away from these people, blah, blah, blah. They called the mom. They were like, you're full of shit. You know why? Because she didn't call the cops. He said, don't call the police. And then she just didn't do it. So they said that she lied. Okay. I should have did this disclaimer. Before I put this video up, I'm going to actually explain why I'm scattered like that. I pull a Rain Man every once in a while. And that's why I love doing my lives. Because I could just come up and you know, it kind of clicks. Anyway, so there's a documentary called Imposter. And there's this family, and I want to say in France. It might have been here. Who the hell knows? Anyway, because I wasn't going to talk about this. So this family wound up losing their kid. And then this guy in France, he's poor. He don't got any money or whatever. He winds up figuring out that these people will do anything to get that kid back. And it's not like, you know, other people don't do that. This is just a weird case because he was an adult. And I don't mean like an adult, like a grown man. I'm talking about like a super grown man. Like he was nowhere near the age of the kid that was missing. And the family took him in. He could barely speak English. And when they asked him, you know, what the hell's up with your accent? He was like, oh, I was overseas and I just kind of picked up on the language, blah, blah, blah. They wound up taking care. I mean, it was a huge thing. It was a huge thing because it was extremely obvious. He was not the person. But the family was so devastated that they just wanted him to be the kid, you know? And then they wound up doing a DNA test. And he wound up going to jail, actually. And the family still supported him. They were like, look, you know, he was in trouble. He was hungry. He didn't have a place to stay. You know what I mean? He might not be our kid, but we're going to still look out for him, which I thought was really sweet. Weird, but sweet. Kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know if I would do that. If you would do that, write that in the comments. I think it's heartfelt. You know what I mean? Like they saw that there was a problem, that he would take it that far. Okay. Let's get into the nitty-gritty now. Okay, so I already did the tech elites and the FC files. We're done with that. Oh, and by the way, if you look up Sergey Brin, I forgot I put this here. Even though he was in the files, and Larry Page was in the files, he was at the White House on, when is it? He was in the White House in September taking a photo. He's at a dinner for technology. And remember when Trump had that like big thing and all the tech bros were there? This guy was in it. He's got a picture smiling and grinning and whatever. Keep that in mind. It said that he's the co-founder of Google, by the way, and he's one of the richest men in the world, which we know. He visited Epstein's private island near St. Thomas, made plans to dine with him in the Upper East Side home. Anyway, they even have him corresponding with Ghislaine Maxwell. So we already know he's in the shit. So just keep that in mind. Okay, then I found institutional investors. It's hard. When you get to like a certain point, it's kind of difficult to find like parent companies. Not like I did the other day. By the way, I wonder if anybody watched that. Well, I get to see the numbers, but I was really hoping it would go a little bigger. I did not want to like get on camera yesterday. It was like one of those days. I don't even think I'm going to do videos every single day, because this kind of stuff really weighs on me after a while. And as long as I keep doing the longer videos, I really don't have to be here every day unless something comes up. Then I will be here. Okay, so let's get past that. You hear that? That's not my fault. Just like, you know, it's not my fault. So, a friend of mine, a really good guy, he was commenting on my stuff earlier because I was talking about the correlation between the events of September 10th, where they said they lost trillions. I said billions, but I meant trillions. I think it was like 2.3. He had sent me a little link and said, you know, did I see the back and forth between him and Cynthia McKinney? And I might have at some point, but I didn't even think about it, so I watched it again. She asked him about that, about child trafficking. Like, that was a part of everything that's happening, even back then. Well, anyway, I'm going to go further than that in a minute. I couldn't get the transcript, but, and it's really hard to find the information because I can't do videos here. Like, I can't take stuff from here on a live, but it definitely came up. If you go to cspan.org and put human trafficking video, Representative Cynthia McKinney grills Donald Rumsfeld about DinoCorp human trafficking. We're going to get into DinoCorp in a little bit too. And you can watch it there. I'm sorry. And that came out April, well, CSAN put it up recently, like 5 or 6 years ago. So we already know that they had something, that this was well known, and it was kind of in the open. Okay, so they have these continued hearings, and I wrote down the people that I recognized. So in 2002, they had a foreign government complicity in human trafficking, a review of the State Department's 2002 Trafficking in Persons report. I had to look up what all of those things were. So I wanted to only, of course, there's people today that are alive that are still in power. But in this meeting, I just wanted to find out who's still in play that was here. And I kind of put, so Ron Paul, Texas, Cynthia McKinney in Georgia. And then I kind of ran with it. Anyway, I marked the little parts that I thought were important. So I'm going to read some of it, not all of it, because this shit is long. It's 104 pages. I read it, but I only marked some of the stuff that I thought was kind of important. So bear with me. So it says, in addition to providing an overview, oh my God, of the state of the war against human trafficking and a general assessment of the Trafficking in Persons report, I hope our witnesses will address one question in particular. The Trafficking Victims Protection Act places particular emphasis on the need to take action against governments that not only tolerate human trafficking, but are actively complicit in such trafficking through their agencies and officials, both this year and last year. Criticism of the report of human rights advocates and humanitarian organizations have singled out governments, and I'm going to give you the list. Singled out governments that are omitted from the Tier 3 list. Okay. I think I should just go to the tier list since I brought it up. Let me finish this and then I'll go to the tier list. The Tier 3 list. Even though they appear to give impunity to their own officials who participate in and profit from sex trafficking and slave trafficking. In some cases, the report acknowledges this problem but finds, nevertheless, that the government has engaged in significant efforts to end trafficking. These efforts typically include co-sponsoring with anyway. Okay, so I'm going to go into detail about the tiers. So I didn't know what that was. So there's Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. So Tier 1 are countries that are trying to get, no, not trying, but they got like systems to help and police and private agencies and all that. Tier 2 are people that are trying, but they're not just there yet. Then there's Tier 3, and that's countries that just don't give a shit. They just don't care. They don't put anything in place, and they believe that their governments and stuff like that are actually in play with the trafficking. Okay. Wait till you get to the list. Anyway, I'm still scrolling. Okay, so I'm going back to another part. So trafficking affects virtually every country in the world and is one of the fastest growing areas of international criminal activity. Chinese and Vietnamese triads, the Japanese Yakuza, South American drug cartels, the Italian mafia, and Russian gangs are amongst the worst offenders. But it is also believed that some 50,000 people are trafficked to the United States every year. Remember again, this hearing was in 2002. The Trafficking Victims Protection Act requires that the Department of State, us, I should stress that. A lot of the stuff that's happening in these other countries, we watch them. Like, we're like the babysitter, right? We've always been in control of these things. Like, all of these countries have to tell us what the fuck is going on, which is super weird, but I'll get into that later. Okay. The second of these reports, which we are receiving today, still includes 89 countries that are somehow involved or related to either the transit or trafficking of victims. 89. Of these countries, 19 are still classified as Tier 3. And I just told you what Tier 3 is bad. Which means that their governments do not meet the minimum international standards against trafficking. There have been improvements in the past year. 14 countries were upgraded from Tier 3 to Tier 2. However, 19 nations in Tier 3 is still too high. Beginning in the fiscal year 2004, okay, I think this came out 2006. Yeah, I have no, okay, just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Countries that remain in Tier 3 will be subject to sanctions from the United States, right? Because we do that. Although, I suppose, harsh actions against countries who refuse to make the necessary changes, in some cases, exacerbate, you know what I mean, conditions that increase the likelihood of trafficking, right? So chronic unemployment and widespread poverty, we know about that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm going to throw this in here. I don't care how long I'm here. So a couple of years back, there was this guy, and I know you know what catfishing is. So, or, you know, women or men or whatever that act like, you know, or ask you for money. Remember back in the day, it used to be a thing where they'd be like, oh, I'm a prince, and you send me some money. So this guy, he was like kind of rich. He found out that his picture was everywhere. People were catfishing with his name, his information, like they had all his photos. You know, the things you're not supposed to do is like put all your business out there. And then he got like an investigator, like a private eye. And he was like, could you find out what's going on? Like, could you tell me how this starts? So the guy winds up in, I want to say India. So the guy winds up there and he's like, look, I actually found out the building, like the place where, you know, all of these people are doing it. He's like, it's a big place. They went down there and the guy found out that there were like giant buildings with like 20, 30 floors, all filled with rooms and apartments where people are stacked like a jail. And they're all in there. They all have phones. They all have, you know, to get a certain amount of people. Now, here is the problem, which I didn't know. It made me see these things a little bit differently. They tell these people to come to from other countries. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you that. Take them, take all of their shit, throw them in this room, give them a phone and tell them you're required. It's kind of like those jobs that work on commission. They won't feed them if they don't do it. They beat them, like, severely, the men and the women. So when the women, you know how some guys, they kind of bumped up and they're like, well, if I don't see a photo or I don't see you like this. So they would have her stand there and then they would record it. And, you know, she would just say or do whatever the hell the guy's asking, just to prove that she is real. And then he would just keep giving her money. And then if she didn't get the money, like let's say he's like, oh, I don't have it today, but he saw her, they would beat the shit out of her. So there was a video that came out of a guy that he was trying to leave one of these facilities and he was on a roof and you could see them beat him, chase him, beat him, and drag him back. We don't know if he's alive or not. But it's a whole business. It's not just some dude in a call center that's just trying to get a little cash. These people are from third world countries. These people are forced into slavery. They're beaten. They're not fed. They're housed where they're like pretty much sleeping on top of each other. But they have to bring in that money. So there's videos out of like content creators that they record them having interactions with people that are trying to scam, like old ladies and stuff. And if you ever watch one, even though they egg them on, you can hear the guys. Like, I don't even get how they do that or why they do that. But if the guy's like, oh, I don't have the money, or I didn't get the money cards or whatever, and they just start screaming bloody murder. You better do what I say. If you know now why they're acting that way, even though they know they're taking a shot of just not getting any money at all, it's not screaming to be mean. It's screaming out of fear. They're just scared. They know that if they don't get that money, what's going to happen to them? Just keep that in mind when you see those videos. And I have to write down really quick that was like a part, because I'm trying to do all of this and then put down what I'm actually talking about because I forget. Okay. Scam calls, you think? Scam calls. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. So I just told you about that. Jesus Christ. Anyway. It's so zoomed in. Okay, so anyway, the ratification process of the UN protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children, and educating the public, for example, through the annual country reports on human rights practices, right? But they're covering everybody. There's plenty of stories of women that they're told they can have jobs as being nannies. They take all of their ID. They beat them. Same thing, the exact same thing. And these are rich people that are doing it. Yeah, like you were surprised, right? So anyway, we're kind of like the boss of policing, right? Okay, hold on. I want to see if I actually put anything else in here. So then went to schools, there's criminalization. There you go. I knew there was something else. So there's a section called 103E. It defines forms of human trafficking in persons to include not only sex trafficking, but this is what I covered, but labor trafficking as well. Sex trafficking is defined as any commercial sex act, which means any sex act of account of which anything of value. We already know how that works. But it's also including brides, you know, the little kids that get married. That's including sex tourism, which is a huge problem. Jesus Christ. Do you know, if you look into it, do you know in the United States what's the biggest day of trafficking? Super Bowl Sunday, which I think is Sunday, right? Sunday. Here's why. A lot of this stuff happens through Texas. I actually know someone. I actually personally know someone. I would never say who they are, but I personally know someone who hitchhiked when they were a kid, wound up being in a truck with somebody, with a driver to go to another state, and he beat her, he abused her, and then he told her he was going to sell her in Texas. That's real. That was like the early 2000s, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, so they're saying that we have a task force, whatever. Sex trafficking, labor trafficking, slaving, the undocumented. Okay. There was a part that was super, like I told you, I really went through this. Okay. Listen to this. So combating trafficking requires countries to recognize trafficking as an extraditable offense. For example, in Cyprus, trafficking in persons and sexual exploitation of children are deemed as offenses under the extraction and fugitive law. And the combating of trafficking in persons and exploitation of children law. Similarly, a pending bill in Nigeria, the act to establish the National Agency for Trafficking in Persons, Republic of Nigeria's official gazette. That was in 2002. The act requires the report to inquire into whether a government or a country extradites a person charged with trafficking. However, the report does not inquire into the issue of extradition except in relation to the countries of the Republic of Korea, which is in Tier 1, and Estonia and Nigeria, which are in Tiers 2, and Burma and Iran in Tier 3. Corruption is an important issue that needs to be thoroughly and consistently addressed in the report. A countryman vigorously investigate and prosecute acts of trafficking. Try to go through this really quick. Okay. The report explicitly addresses the issue of public officials' participation in or facilitating of trafficking in persons, as required by the Act in several countries, including Albania, Bangladesh, Belarus, Bosnia, Bulgaria, Burma, Cambodia, Gabon, Georgia, Guatemala, and I think that's the Georgia and Russia. Guatemala, Honduras, Hungary, India, Indonesia, Israel, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, Mexico, Morocco, Nepal, Nigeria, Pakistan, Romania, Senegal, Singapore, Sudan, Tajikistan, Tanzania, you know what I mean, Thailand, Togo, Turkey, Ukraine, and Vietnam. We would like to see the issue of public corruption addressed in the report in more detail. Okay. Any effort to combat trafficking in persons must expand the scope of money laundering. So I brought up the Franklin scandal that happened where boys were wandering around at midnight at the White House, right? If you didn't see that, you really got to go see it. I did that one in parts, so it should be easy. Anyway, I named all of these places. Like, there's about another 50, but the ones that weren't in the original is Chad, Chile, Botswana, Cape Verde, Cuba, Denmark. Anyway, Egypt, Jordan, all of these places. While recognizing that adequate information must be available before placing a country in a specific tier, we urge the Department of State to collect information regarding other countries for the 2003 report, so that no country will be exempt from sanctions, only on a basis of insufficient information. It must be re-emphasized that the report is designed to serve as an enforcement mechanism to implement the purpose of the Act. This is why we encourage more efforts to be made by the Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons to work with countries to move from Tier 3 to Tier 2, in the case of Israel, from Tier 2 to Tier 1. Yes, they're in the tier, and it ain't in 1. And I might get into that in a minute. This is mandated by Section 109, blah, blah, blah. There was one more part that was horrifying. Anyway, so while I'm scrolling down, because I put little markers, like I said, I read all of this for me, but for you guys, so you clearly understand what's going on. Okay. So if you either were born in Israel and then you moved here, or you have a lineage in that, if you commit a crime anywhere in the world, you can go back and they'll take you. And you can't be extradited from that country at all. If you look up how many child predators that have left other countries and went back to Israel, look into that. You will be amazed, including people from here in the U.S. that just kind of hauled ass. You get on a plane, you go back over there, you say, hey, I'm in a little bit of trouble. They said, all right, whatever. And then you just go ahead and you live your life with no consequence. Okay. Mr. Smith in New Jersey, he says, okay, let me ask you a question on China. In today's USA Today, there's a front page story. China thrown off balance as boys outnumber girls. Please keep that in mind while you're listening to what I'm talking about. Okay, we already know that China had a one-child rule, I think. Anyway, there's a documentary, horrifying, about what they used to do with the little girls. And they will put them in these, I want to say asylums, right? But they would just leave them there. They would leave them there. I don't mean like they took them in and they were raising them or anything. I'm talking about they would pick up these kids, they would put them inside this place, and they would leave them there. They may be a nurse or something, and she would just kind of walk around, but they didn't change their pampers, they wouldn't change their clothes, they wouldn't bathe them, they wouldn't feed them. I kind of want to say don't watch it. I don't think you should watch it. Anyway, I pretty much gave you the gist of it, so don't watch it. Okay. So if you think about that, sorry about that. I want to say China and I think North Korea. But that one child policy, I think, was in play with what we're seeing today. I think that was in play. I think that was on purpose. And listen, when you start listening to stuff like this, and I go into real deep stuff, like really down the rabbit hole, please take into consideration that you have to be open-minded about these things. You have to. That's the only way you're going to recognize what's going on. I know it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. This is why I am not doing lives every day, especially since I'm covering stuff like this. It weighs on you after a while. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to think of the world being like this. This isn't a U.S. problem. This is a world problem. Okay, let me finish. Okay, they're just talking about the imbalance. So it says, department report suggested that the imbalance may be as high as 100 million boys versus girls, male versus females in that country, which is because of the one child per person per couple policy. But it also creates, as we all know, a magnet for bribes. This points out that there may be 40 million young Chinese men who won't be able to marry or start families because of this disproportionately. Okay, and China's in tier 2. Okay, so, and I'm talking about like 12 or 13 years ago. I did a show, and it was talking about there are more. Okay, so when they show you here especially here in the U.S., a lot of other countries know about other countries. We're the only ones that don't know. When they show you places like Tokyo, you know, and they just show people, and then they show you like these little compartments that they sleep in, and it's like coffins and shit. Anyway, so here's the reason why it looks like that. One, they ain't that many people. They're all concentrated in one place because it's the only place where you can get a job. So there's things called prefectures, and it's like the country country, the way that you would just be in the middle of nowhere here. It's kind of like that. So it was generational. So like the great-great-grandfather lived there. It was pretty much farming and, you know, cows and goats and all that stuff. Farming. Duh. Anyway. So, over time, you know, they wanted to start sending their kids and their grandkids to colleges, you know, to get the hell out of where they were. So here was the problem. The kids didn't come help. Like, they sent them there so that the kids could go, you know, become successful, and then they would send money or they would do something. The whole purpose was to send them out so that even though they were going to get old, and even though they weren't going to be there, that they would get fed, you know, or they'd have feed for their animals or whatever, or seeds. That's not what happened. So if you ever heard, and this, I'm not being stereotypical here, you know, that they work super hard or super long hours and things like that, they don't have time to go home. So back then, I was talking about that they sell more adult diapers than they do baby diapers because nobody was having kids. There's places out there, especially with women, that they have like these giant buildings and stuff like that. A woman would get off of work, she would make a lot of money, she would go into this place, and she would pay a dude, not for anything physical, to sit down and talk. He would ask about her day, you know, give her a drink, she would sit down and have food and talk, and then she would just get up and leave. That's it. It was just for companionship. But they don't see any real reason to get married. They're like, for what? They even have, the way they used to have cattle slavery, there's like this whole thing once a year, and the parents or the grandparents or the aunts and uncles, they have like these resume forms, and and then the guys have like this little string with like a little thing about, and it has their basics, you know, height, weight, college, if they have money in the family, you know, if they have any kids, blah, 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 or ever married. And then their parents, their family members would just walk around, and women would just like walk around and be like, oh, I don't like that guy. Oh, I don't like that guy. And then they would put them up on this stage, and they would just walk around and hope somebody would pick them so that they could start a family. They don't tell you these things. This is easily, I don't know if it's as easy as it used to be. Anyway, you can search these things. That's real. These places have gotten to the point, including this country, we don't have kids anymore. Nobody wants to get married anymore. It's just not a thing. And it was forced on us, by the way. It's not like we just decided just to not get laid at some point. It was literally something that was kind of pushed on us. And now they want to reverse it, and they can't. They just can't. They're trying so hard in China for people over there to have kids, man. They're begging people to have children. They're like, please, let's get some people here. And that's, by the way, that's also why a lot of, it's called passport bros, and it's needy dudes from the U.S. that, you know, they get a passport and they purposely go to a third world country so that they can pick up a chick. And, you know, either they live out there or they bring them back here, but it's still kind of just like a mail order bride. It's heartbreaking, actually. And then they wonder why nobody's having kids here, right? Anyway, who's going to want to do that has to go out there and pay for it? They're like, oh, we're not paying for it. We just don't want to deal with women in the U.S. No. You know that she doesn't have money. Her family doesn't have money. So you go over there with like $50 into them. That's like $1 million. And you think you're the shit. No, you're pathetic, and you should probably work on that. Because you know nobody's going to do anything about that here. Okay. By the way, a lot of these documents that come from us, we talk a lot about everybody's. Have you noticed we're not on any of the lists? We're not even on the tier 1. Like, nowhere. It's just about us and us making rules for everybody else. Like, we don't do anything here, right? Okay. It said, what is the State Department's response to concerns? This is us now. That the U.S. troops in South Korea are frequently brothels with trafficking victims while the military police tolerate this practice. And I don't know who they asked. You know how far I better go to go with that? Anyway, they were asking somebody that could obviously answer the question. This is the answer. In response to your question concerning allegations that the U.S. troops in South Korea are frequently brothels, this isn't from the 1970s during Vietnam, by the way. This is a question in the 2000s. In South Korea, frequently brothels containing trafficking victims. I understand you recently received a letter from the Secretary of the Army, Thomas E. White. I agree with the Pentagon's assessment. They all knew the Pentagon's assessment of this issue as serious, and support his efforts to review policies and enforcement practices in South Korea. The support in efforts to receive policies and enforcement, I already read that. Ambassador Nancy Eli Raphael, the senior advisor to the Secretary of State and director of the Office of Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons, is working with our Assistant Secretary for Military Police Affairs regarding these concerns, which she will continue to raise with the Department of Defense during our discussion. We also are working closely with the South Korean government to continue to strengthen efforts. No. Okay. Where am I going to go with this really quick? Okay. So we have bases everywhere, right? If you look into the bases that are all over the world, I mean, we have them everywhere. Or when we're planning on it, those people protest. I'm talking about the way we did it here for No King's Day. They protest. Please do not bring the military in here. They assault our women. They assault our children. They kidnap. They murder. Don't bring them here. And all of the places that happen are in constant fear of what's going to happen if a drunk military person just decides to get up and do whatever the hell he wants, wherever he wants, because, you know, he has a gun. And he goes to the villages that don't have anything. It's just kind of what they do in these other countries. Anyway, man, I really went down in this document, didn't I? There's one other thing, and then we're going to move on from here. Mind you, there was already a problem. I did a show. I mean, seriously, I just did a show about that I did in 2011. I just reposted it about military abuse. So that's not new at all. But it's great. Well, not great, but you know what I mean. It's like, it's different when you hear it. It's different when you see it. It kind of just, it like breaks a barrier of you're not going crazy, right? How many people right now are like, oh, that's not really happening. Our world doesn't work that way. Oh, you know what's my favorite? My favorite is, there's always a whistleblower, right? If that was really happening, how come nobody ever said anything? God, I love when people say that. Not knowing how the world works, I get that. But living in, how much further did I go? I don't think I did. Okay, okay, never mind. I went as far as I wanted to go with that. Let's go back to the U.S. military. Okay, it says, by the way, because I just saw it. Oh, I know how to speed read. That's another reason why I always have all the windows open. So anyway, the Honorable Linda Smith began her political career, blah, blah, blah. During her tenure in Congress, she visited India and Nepal to witness firsthand the situation of young women and children who are being exploited there. After leaving Congress in 1989, Ms. Smith formed Shared Hope International in partnership with Teen Challenge International. Holy shit, I know what Teen Challenge is. That's still in play. I think there's one in Cape Girardeau in Missouri. Oh, there is. Oh my God. I did not know that. Okay. I didn't know that. Okay. So Teen Challenge is like the Salvation Army. Same thing. They do the same thing that the Salvation Army does, except, well, I mean, the Salvation Army kind of helps people too. But they have like these stores like all over the place. And I remember, holy crap. Okay. Anyway, it's still in place, which you already know that these places have their own issues, including the NGOs, which I'll do that another day. There was one I really wanted to see, and I think it might be in another report. Yeah, it has to be because I didn't see this. Okay, for example, our investigators just returned from Cambodia, where they gathered intelligence about a brothel village outside of PENN. One investigator rented a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old for about $40. IJM was able to rescue these girls along with 2 others, but hundreds remain unrescued. I also wanted to tell about a 14-year-old girl I met in Thailand a few days ago. UNICEF, another perpetrator by the way, tells us that 1 million children are taken into forced prostitution each year around the world. But, where was I? But when I hear such mind-numbing statistics, I think of this one 14-year-old girl. Her name is Daisy. A few weeks ago, she was tricked into leaving her home in Burma during the school break to pursue her promise of a job in a noodle shop in northern Thailand. A Thai police officer was kind enough to give her a ride in his truck. But he was just part of the cruel scheme that saw Daisy sold into a brothel where she was abused by 7 men on the first night. The first customer had paid extra to take her virginity. And when she screamed, the brothel owner came in and put tape across her mouth so that she wouldn't upset the customer. Fortunately, our investigators found Daisy. Okay, really quick. There was a movie that came out, something of freedom or something like that. And it was pretty much a story just like this, right? So heroic white guy walks into this place and he just goes and rescues all these kids. They found out that he was like full of shit, like he completely said something about the story. Everybody was like, yeah, but he brought it to the forefront, and you know, now we have the information, because we refuse to say anything about anybody doing anything stupid. He did it anyway, but everybody was like, but he brought it to our attention. So take that the way you want. Okay, so in India, over 2.3 million girls and women are believed to be working in the sex industry against their will within the country at any given time. 2.3 million. In Thailand, the Protection Project of Johns Hopkins University, cites estimates between 200,000 and 300 to 1 million trafficking victims are in Thailand. UNICEF estimates that there are at least 100,000 in Thailand. Given that any of these millions of victims are induced to provide comfort, let's say that. I hate that word, but that's the only one I can use. To provide it by force, fraud, or coercion. Several times a day and hundreds of days each year. There are, in fact, hundreds of millions of criminal acts of severe forms of trafficking every year in India and Thailand. Okay. I cannot for the life of me, I know I saw it, and I could have sworn I did it, but it actually might be on another, document. I'm literally reading through this, by the way. It's going really, really fast, but okay. Anyway, I think it's in another document. So anyway, I'm just going to cancel. Okay. So let's just go over this because I really don't know how long I'm on these things. It doesn't have a timer. I think it's supposed to, but I never see it. Anyway, I don't care. Okay. So we're the police, right? Of human trafficking. We're the police of human trafficking all over the world. We have the bases, we have the guns, we have the threats. We can sanction whoever the hell we want if they don't follow the rules, right? Most of the abuse happens in third world countries where they don't have any money, where people, like the ones we have here, people in power, right? I know I don't have to explain this to you, but people in power in these other countries will do anything and sell out their people so that they can have a nice luxury car. When we decide that we're going to go on TV and say, like Cheeto did a couple of months back with, I think, the president of Nigeria, and he was like, oh, we know about your country and the corruption, and, you know, the audacity, by the way. He was like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. These people that go out there, they have fancy cars, they give them money, they give them guns, they give them whatever they want. So they wind up having two factions of people, the poor and the people that are willing to do anything to get anything. They give them guns, they take over the other people. Here's something you might not know. So many people, and I've heard people over the years say this stupid shit right here, that why do people in these poor countries keep having kids? I mean, it's not a bad question. But what's bad is that you don't try to find out. You just take that in your brain and you don't ask any questions about it. You just make this stupid ass assumption. Here's what happens 99% of the time. If you look at the statistics of the women that are having children, a lot of children, in places that have huts, they can barely feed them, all of this stuff. 99.9% of the time, you will find out that it's war ravaged. That there's either a civil war or there's something going on. It's dangerous and there's a lot of military. It doesn't have to be our military. It could just be theirs. Those dudes, those pieces of shit, walk around, because these things last for years, they walk around abusing and impregnating the women constantly. There's no such thing as protection in a lot of these countries. That's why HIV and AIDS is prevalent everywhere. It's like the dudes used to think that, like back in the 70s and 80s, they were like, oh, it doesn't feel comfortable. These other countries, they don't do it. They just don't. So they walk around, they either offend on the same person, or it's a gang thing, whatever it is. And they just go to the next one, and they go to the next one, and they go to the next one. These are places that don't have a hospital. They don't have terminating pregnancy clinics, or the Plan B pill. Like, they don't have that. They don't have that. So the next time you hear somebody say, why are people in those countries, they keep having babies? Tell them why. Tell them why. It's not just because they're living there and their child is starving and they're like, hey, you know, the husband and the wife are like, hey, let's get it on and have another kid. That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even make sense. Again, that's the stereotype of people that just don't have any sense. Now you know, this is the reason why there are so many kids in these places. They're not because it's like this Friday night and everybody's having a blast. These are guys out there with guns that are taking the lives of these people, of these women, and of the children, and they keep impregnating the women in these places. They don't care if they're already pregnant, they just run around doing this constantly. Please keep that in mind. Now let's go back to this country's pieces of shit. Okay, like I said, my buddy told me about Cynthia McKinney. Oh my God, is that her name now? Probably. I already forgot. Anyway, she brought up the trafficking, right? Which she came up and said she named the company that was getting in trouble. Now, I don't know if you know this, but contractors from other corporations and stuff, their laws don't apply to them. We can't get them in trouble at all. They made that deal with this country that any corporation that has their own people, the same way that they're saying ICE can do, that's what they're already doing. They've been doing that. this whole time. There's a company called Whacking Hut, and they're in something. I'm not doing that today. Anyway, so they kind of have all of these places. They get these militarized guys. They run around. They give them guns. They give them suits, and they tell them to do whatever they want. They don't have to do, and no law, I'm talking about zero law, applies to them at all. And that's terrifying, including a company called Dino Corp. And I will tell you in a little bit who they are now. So here's a real piece of work. A top Army, wait. This came out, hold on. Oh, okay, maybe 10 years ago, I'm going to assume. 2017. That's not even that long ago. But it's not about something that's recent. Okay. A top Army general has been arrested on charges of child abuse as part of the elite ring investigation in the U.S. Former vice president of Dino Corp. He was the vice president of Dino Corp. Major General James Grazioplin, has been charged with multiple counts of child abuse, which occurred between 1983 and 1989. His arrest represents the latest in a series of high-level rings busts by investigators tasked with ending human trafficking and child abuse by the elites in America. Details surrounding the case are scarce, of course, right? As the Army released no other information as to what precipitated, I don't know how to pronounce his name. We'll just call him piece of shit. Being charged 3 decades after the alleged assault. Blah, blah, blah. This is kind of who he is. Nobody cares. Okay. While potentially just a coincidence, piece of shit connects with Dino Corp immediately raises a red flag, as the company has been embroiled in numerous high-level scandals involving the exploitation and trafficking of children of sex, dating as far back as the Bosnian conflict during Bill Clinton's tenure as U.S. president. Revealing the extreme level of complicity by Dino Corp, it is the illegal exploitation of children. Former employee Ben Johnston filed a RICO lawsuit against Dino Corp after he was allegedly fired for reporting human rights abuses by other employees during the Bosnian conflict. Quote, he said in a report in 2002, he said none of the girls were from Bosnia. They were imported by the Dino Corp and the Serbian mafia. These guys would say, quote, I gotta go to Serbia this weekend to pick up 3 girls. Dino Corp leadership was 100% in bed with the mafia over there. He further detailed, Johnston recoiled in horror when he heard one of his fellow helicopter mechanics at a U.S. Army base near Tulsa, Bosnia, brag one day in early 2000, quote, my girl's not a day over 12. The bragging about a 12-year-old slave pushed Johnston over the edge. Quote, I had to do something. There were kids involved. At least 13 Dino Corp employees have been sent home from Bosnia for purchasing women or participating in other related activities. But despite large amounts of evidence in some cases, none of the Dino Corp employees sent home have faced criminal prosecution. Yeah, that's kind of okay. See? Denoting widespread knowledge of the sexual exploitation of children engaged by Dino Corp within the halls of government, Georgia Congressman Cynthia McKinney, thanks Sarge, during a hearing on the proposed 2006 Department of Defense budget, asked that then Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, quote, Mr. Secretary, is it policy of the U.S. government to reward companies that traffic in women and little girls? That's my first question. Since that time, it appears Dino Corp, while still enjoying the lucrative privilege of doing business with the U.S. government at taxpayers' expense, has failed to reform itself or regulate the sexual exploits of its employees with children, according to numerous emails released by WikiLeaks. Remember WikiLeaks used to be a thing? Between Cheryl Mills and the then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. An email from Mills to Clinton warns of a potential Washington Post article which would describe an event where Dino Corp employees hired a 15-year-old boy to do mock lap dances that involved Dino Corp employees putting dollar bills in the boy's waistband, just as a stripper would a stripper's garter. Okay, let me throw in something really quick. A lot of these I want to say, okay, Middle Eastern countries, right? They're very against anybody being homosexual, anything like that. They don't care. I'll look it up in a minute. It's rampant over there, by the way. It's rampant. But there's, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, they pay boys to dress like girls and then dance. And then they get pimped out. But I mean, it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. Again, documentaries. You know why I keep doing my long form stuff? I can watch stuff all day. If it's interesting, I kind of run with it. So even though I'm reading on the side, I kind of feel like I'm sitting here and I'm having a conversation with you. And then we get a chance to just kind of discuss stuff. So, okay. I'll be back. Purchasing a service from a child. Oh, additional WikiLeaks cables describe the event as purchasing a service from a child, while denoting specific strategies to convince journalists not to cover the story, disingenuously claiming that it would risk lives. Right? It's like Cheeto, not too long ago. He was like, don't say anything because it's going to ruin the lives of my friends. Yeah. Although the email between Mills and Hillary claims, quote, no sex took place. Oh my God, it's right here. Bachabazi. That's what it's called. The tradition of bachabazi in Afghanistan often involves abuse of young boys being sold to the highest bidder. The most disturbing thing is what happens after the parties. Often the boys are taken to hotels, blah, blah, blah. Ugh. Anyway, in spite of these nefarious activities, DynoCorp continues to be rewarded with the U.S. government contracts. In December 2016, the U.S. Navy signed a $94 million contract with DynoCorp to facilitate humanitarian aid, civil assistance, minor military construction, and contingency programs to support exercises and initiatives. The Navy. Question. Why do these companies continue to receive government contracts? Anybody want to say it in the comments? What do you think it is? You know I'm going to tell you anyway. Okay. That was the question everybody had. But I want to hear what you guys think. Is this news? Is this surprising to you in any way, shape, or form? Is this like... I don't know. For me, I mean, I've been doing this so long, I kind of already knew this stuff. And I think this is why I'm discussing it now. Because I know when I found it out, like, it broke me in a certain way. Excuse me. It kind of, like, it did something, you know, over time. Because it's really serious. You know what I mean? Like, that we live in that kind of a world. And back then, people like me and a lot of people I know, you know, oh, you're crazy. Oh, you wear your tinfoil hat. Oh, you know, it would have been on the news. People used to say that shit. Now it's blown up in our faces. And they're still in some form of denial for some reason. Well, I mean, I get it. Like, if you're in a bubble, you don't want anybody popping your bubble. You don't want anybody telling you anything. You know, you want to watch... You want to watch sports, you know what I mean? You want to watch the Grammys, you want to watch whatever. Anything to just numb you. And I get that, you know? So it just kind of bounces off you when you hear stuff like this. But the reason why it keeps happening is because people want to ignore it. You can't. Especially now. I mean, I still see people doing it. Heartbreaking. But it's not as many people as it used to be. Okay, so we talked about this douchebag. Okay. Then we had, oh my God, my back. I'm so glad I've been sitting in my chair. But I'm going to put my leg up because remember I said it hurts. Okay. So we had three major scandals. So we had the Penn State abuse scandal, right? And that was Jerry Sandusky. I'm not going to cover all of those in detail. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. There was one more. Okay. I don't know. I keep hitting this. Anyway. Okay. So I know you guys heard of Sasha Riley, right? He came out. He named names. Let's just put it that way. He named names. I didn't do any of his stuff. because everybody else was doing it. And I felt like, as a matter of fact, his story is what got me to start doing this. I did cover a little bit of just about the system he was in, you know, that he was adopted and all of that other stuff. I was like, let's go in that direction. But then I kept going, and here we are. So then Ohio State University in the 80s and 90s. Okay. So there was allegations of abuse by a guy named Richard Strauss. And he was a team doctor. Okay, so Dr. Strauss is accused of committing nearly 1,500 acts during his tenure at OSU. And I want to say either there's a documentary or... Oh, there's a documentary. I'll tell you in a minute why. Okay. So they wound up finding out, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Oh my God, my back hurts so much. Okay. Oh, okay. It's called, the documentary is called Surviving Ohio State, and it came on HBO. I remember watching that. Okay, so here's why it's important. I already did the Penn State thing, right? Everybody ignored it. Nobody cared about what was going on. And that's usually what we do. Here's why the Ohio State thing is kind of important. And surprisingly, it came out last year, and I didn't hear anybody talking about it. I mean, no one was talking about it. I don't think I did a show about it either. It's kind of weird. Oh, I stopped doing shows last year. Okay, anyway, sorry. Okay, here's why it's so interesting. You ever heard of Jim Jordan? The Jim Jordan, like I want to say he's like the chairman of a whole bunch of committees. He's still there. He's there right now. He's there. So, okay. So the allegations of Jim Jordan, a prominent Republican congressman, of course, in Ohio, from Ohio, stem from this time as an assistant wrestling coach at Ohio State University during the 80s and 90s. These allegations became more pronounced following revelations about the abuse conducted by Dr. Strauss, right? Okay. So he had denied it. So if you watch the documentary, they're chasing him around while he's actually trying to go into office. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He was a coach. He was a coach. Okay. So I don't know anything about sports. I don't care about sports. Okay. There's a hierarchy, right? So, like, then you have, like, the dean and da-da-da-da. But I guess the sports stuff is kind of like, you know, the head coach and then the other dude coach. And then, you know, you got the guy that, the doctor that deals with injuries and stuff. So that's who Strauss was. But Jim Jordan was not a head coach. He was like the assistant coach or something like that. Anyway, so it says here in July of 2025, Jim Jordan faced a deposition under oath regarding these allegations as part of an ongoing civil litigation involving former student athletes against OSU. This litigation stems from the revelations about Strauss and the institutional cover-up surrounding the abuse. The situation has garnered significant attention, not just in Ohio, but nationally due to Jordan's high-profile political career. I'm talking about you could turn on any channel on C-SPAN or on, what is it? Whatever. Anyway, he's in it, like, in the front. Like, he's running shit right now. Okay. The implications of these allegations could affect his political outstanding and potential influence, leading outcomes related to the ongoing lawsuit. Do you think that matters? He shouldn't be anywhere. The allegations against Jim Jordan, the duration of the abuse is 20 years. He's accused for ignoring abuse from the athletes. He denies awareness of any abuse. His deposition was in 2005. So I think they're still going through it. So if you watch the documentary, they talk to the actual athletes, and they're like, there's no way in hell he didn't know. Of course he knew. There were some dudes that were like, we talked to him. And he was like, oh, God, no. You know, that's a regular checkup. Don't be stupid. And then we had Nasser, I don't remember his first name. He was the one that, did all that stuff to the Olympic gymnastics. And during the files, there's supposed like some kind of jail thing, like a letter sent from Epstein to him. Okay. That makes complete sense. Okay. here's what doesn't make sense and why people are saying that that can't be true. And really, we live in this world and there's still people that like that can't be true. That's amazing to me. Other inmates are not supposed to write to other inmates. Like, that's not how it works. I think the closest to an inmate sending correspondence to other inmate is like taking a little piece of paper, folding it, and then they're like flicking it to another cell. That's the closest you get. You don't have like a jail, because they look through all your mail. I'm sure they didn't look through his mail. Anyway, they go through all the mail and stuff, and then they have to mail it. So you're telling me that this guy saw a letter that was explicitly to Jeffrey Epstein, and then sent it from one dude to another dude in jail for the same exact crime. Here's why that shouldn't be surprising to you at all. Ghislaine Maxwell has a puppy. She gets fantastic visits. They got phone calls of her having a blast. She's having a good old time. And all of the inmates there are pissed. They're like, what is she even doing here? Imagine this. Imagine you're in jail, right? And you stole a candy bar. And then they put in a mass murderer of babies. Right? So you're in a jail for a candy bar. It's not a serious jail. And then you have somebody like that in the same place, having the same amenities that you have. You'd be pissed. If that's happening, why would it be so hard for people to believe that Nasser and Epstein had some form of a connection? Wait till I get into I'm not even down the rabbit hole yet. My back is killing me and I'm going to keep going. I don't care. I'll have a beer after this. Okay. So we covered those two things, right? Jim Jordan. Okay. So we're going to go into a little bit of my connection to... Okay, it's really hard to get a lot of this older information. So this is going to go just a little bit into the Johnny Gosch situation I told you about, the little kid that had the tape and stuff like that, and his hands behind his back. We're going to cover a little bit of him, but he was already famous for being missing and stuff, and then later over the years. Okay, but he's part of the people from the Franklin scandal. Okay, so, and this is like not in code. Okay, it is. It's an XML version that I was able to find, and it says, I'm not going to say it, but anyway, it's 1999, and I don't want to say the guy who wrote it. I don't think I'm supposed to, anyway, doesn't matter, right? So it says Johnny Gosch, the Franklin scandal. A lurid, mysterious scandal begins taking shape in Omaha by William Robbins, special to the New York Times, December 18, 1988. For several weeks, a federal investigation had riveted attention here on a failed local credit union formed to help the poor. $38 million that is missing. I really have to make this smaller. Anyway, hold on. While I'm making this, because this thing is so big, it's hurting my eyes to read. Okay. Keep in mind that the thing that broke this scandal for the Franklin scandal was embezzlement. It was laundering money. Like, if he wasn't so stupid, he wouldn't have got caught. What is the major aspect of people that are actually looking into the files? These new files. How did he get so much money? Because he was the middleman. I think I did a show about that. I know it's going to sound weird that I keep saying that, but seriously, I do a lot of shows talking about all of this stuff. Okay. Hold on. The collapse of the credit union and the government's lawsuit alleging embezzlement were the extent of the case, right? So at least on the public record until Monday. Then rumors had been circulating in Omaha for much of the last month that their way as remarks presented to the executive board of the state legislature in Lincoln, Nebraska. The speaker was State Senator Ernie Chambers of Omaha, who had received numerous reports to which he clearly gave credence that instances of child abuse and physical abuse were linked to the scandal. Okay. Edward Donegan, a victim of illegal criminal abuse, asserts John Gosch may have been from an experimental MK Ultra family, and those families are under attack from the deep state that created them. They made them, and they, regime change psyops, can break them. If their existence becomes a risk too high, ranking public officials like the cabal. Let's just say the cabal. We're going to just say the cabal. Screw that. I really don't want to get into that. I'm not going to get into that. I love you guys, but no. Listen, flag, I love it. Flag me all day long. I remember back in the day when I first started, I'm just talking about like scroll down past that. Back in the day, I would do these shows, or I would write these papers, and I'd be like, man, something's gonna happen to me. You know what I mean? Like I go so far, like I can't even help it. I mean, eventually I think you guys already know I have ADHD and I'm kind of on the spectrum. So like I turn into like some weird research rain woman. And that's what leads me into all of this. But how about, this is gonna be really quick. Okay, I'm not gonna tell you the names. But one is an ex-president, one was a new president, and a guy that was a lawyer a couple of years back, I think in Cheeto's first. Yeah, he was a lawyer in Cheeto's first presidency. And then I'm going to go stop with that. Anyway. Okay, so this connects. Like I said, I can't really put my finger on how I got this, because like I said, I'm super, super weird, and I get things. That's why I have so many windows open. I get things. I can't really remember where I got them from. I just know this one has a lot of information. Oh, I'm not going to do it today. I got to keep going. But I got information on the bizarre connection between John Hinckley and the Bush family. That's going to be amazing. That one I'll put names on. So, all right, just to give you just a little tiny taste so you can come listen to the next one. Let me see. They got the information on this is the American Nazi Party. And the Vanderbilt Energy Corporation, Amoco Oil Company. And let's see. And let's see. Standard Oil of India. Okay, anyway. So it's a lot of money. It's MK Ultra. It's a bonkers. And they got residential royalties from Bedtime for Bonzo. I'll do all of that another day. Anyway. So, okay. Here's more about Johnny Gosch. Okay. So initially the police came to believe that Gosch was a runaway. But later they changed their statement and suggested that Gosch was kidnapped. But they weren't able to establish a viable motive. Okay. They turned up little evidence and arrested no suspects in connection with the case. So over the years, several private investigators had assisted the Gosches in their search for their son. Okay. They were trying to look for him. I'm going to jump through. And potentially it leaked. On August 12th, 1984, Eugene Martin, another Des Moines area paperboy, disappeared under similar circumstances. He disappeared while delivering newspapers in the south side of Des Moines. Mark James Warren Allen, then 13 years old, told his mother he was going to walk to a friend's house across the street on March 29th, 1986, the day before Easter. However, he never made it to the neighbor's house, and he hasn't been seen since. Allen was first believed to be the third Iowa paperboy to go missing in the 80s based on the early and media reporting. Allen was not a paperboy in Des Moines, according to a detailed piece about Iowa's missing children that appeared in the Des Moines Register in 2013. But even now, 4 decades later, none of the 3 boys' cases have been solved. Okay, I'm going to bring up a name, and then we're going to get into that. Authorities weren't able to prove a connection between the 3 cases. Yet Noreen Gosch, that's his mom, says she was personally informed of the abduction of Eugene Martin, right? That was the other paperboy. a few months in advance by a private investigator, because they were just hiring people to help because they knew the cops weren't doing shit. Searching for her son, she told the kid she was told the kidnapping, quote, would take place the second weekend in August of 1984, and it would be a paper boy from the south side of Des Moines. In 1989, a 21-year-old Paul A. Bonacci, Bonacci, told his attorney, John DeCamp, that he had been abducted into a abuse ring with Johnny Gosch, as a teenager and was forced to participate in Gosch's kidnapping. John DeCamp met with Bonacci and believed he was telling the truth. Noreen later met him and said he told her things he could never know from without talking to her son. He said that Johnny had a birthmark on his chest and a scar on his tongue and a burn scar on his lower leg. Although a description of the birthmark had been widely circulated, information about scars had not been made public. Bonacci also described the stammer that Johnny had when he was upset. The FBI and local police do not believe that Bonacci is a credible witness, of course not, in the case, and may have not interviewed him. His siblings told police he was at home when Gosch was abducted. Okay. There's many stories about kids that are abducted, and then they stay with their abductor, and then the abductor raises them to learn how to make other kids, identify with them the way Maxwell was doing with let's, you want to make a little bit of money? Whatever. Difference is, back then, they were just straight up snatching kids. And this isn't the first story that came out about in situations like that. I want to say there's another one called My Name is Steven. And I watched that when I was younger. That shit was terrifying. And it was kind of like this. Where this kid was abducted. He stayed with the person who took him. And a lot of people had questions because he would take him outside. He let him go to school, and the kid never said anything. Nothing. And he was getting abused like daily, and he wouldn't say anything at all. The guy that took him already had him so fucked up in the head, he never said anything. So eventually, the guy takes him. He's like, hey, I want that little boy over there. Go help me get him. He did, as he was told. And I guess there was like this moment he had where he felt bad for the kid. So he winds up taking the kid. He runs. He tells the police. And then they go and look into the case. They're like, holy crap, he's actually the guy he said he was. And they return him to the family. So here's the part that's upsetting. It's either the Gosch story, which I think is this one, where he had an older brother. I don't know. It's either him or Steven, which I wasn't going to talk about it, so I didn't research it. But it's one of the two. Anyway, long story short, they had an older brother, and he wound up being so jealous that they just talked about the kid all the time. Okay, it was the Steven one. And he got jealous over time, and then years later, he became an abuser, and I think he's still in jail. And everybody's like, what the hell happened? Like, how did you wind up doing that after you clearly knew what your brother went through? People go through shit. Okay. I'm going to save this because I don't think I should have it. Anyway, doesn't matter. I love you guys. I really do. Okay. Remember Bonacci? I know I'm not saying his name right. Anyway, he's the one that said that he knew who Johnny Gosch was, right? That wasn't the only person he said that was there. He knew a ton of information. But he was talking about like weird shit that people were talking about, like, MK Ultra and mind control torture and all this. And they're like, oh, whatever. Obviously, he grows up. He gets on drugs, right? Of course he does. He wants to just block all of that stuff out. Nobody's believing anything he's saying. Nothing. Dismissive. Okay. I'm going to tell you what happened. There was an article in the Des Moines Register. Let me see when it came out. There's so many. I wish you could see this. Okay. Okay. February 24th, 1999. Yeah, I have the HTML version. Okay, anyway, so, okay, the article was Mind Control Victim Awarded $1 million. U.S. government mind control programs like MK Ultra and Monarch. This isn't a newspaper, by the way. I'm not reading some crazy person's journal. This is an article. The mind control $1 million thing is real. You can just find that. When I say things like that, by the way, I don't think about why anybody would search that. Like when I say look it up, it's because I'm kind of saying it, and I hope that you do to like verify what I'm saying sometimes. But who the hell would put that in a search? You know what I mean? Anyway, U.S. government mind control programs like Ultra and Monarch directly against helpless victims, human guinea pigs, have been virtually ignored by the big media cartel. On February 27, 1999, however, U.S. District Court Judge Warren Urbam found former Franklin SNL manager Lawrence E. King, and that's the Franklin scandal, guilty of numerous crimes committed against mind control victims Paul A. Bonacci. Okay? King, serving a 15-year sentence for his role in the theft of $40 million from Franklin and Omaha, Nebraska Credit Union, was ordered by Judge Urbam to pay Bonacci $800,000 in compensatory damages and additional $200,000 in punitive damages. This legal judgment against a notorious perpetrator of satanic ritual child abuse is unprecedented. In the memorandum of decision, Judge Urbam wrote, quote, King continually subjected the plaintiff, Bonacci, to repeated assaults, false imprisonment, infliction of extreme emotional distress, organized and directed satanic rituals, forced the plaintiff to scavenge for children, to be part of the defendant King's abuse and pornography ring. Forced the plaintiff to engage in numerous assaults. Trying to read it, but skipping a lot of words. And games and masochistic incidents with other minor children. He, Bonacci, has suffered burns, broken fingers, beatings of the head and face with other indignities by the wrongful actions of the defendant King. The judge declared, quote, in addition to the misery of going through the experiences just related over a period of 8 years from 1980 to 1988, the plaintiff has suffered the lingering results to the present time. He, Bonacci, is a victim of multiple personality disorder and involving as many as 14 distinct personalities aside from his primary personality, wrote the judge. He has given up a desired military career and received threats on his life. He suffers from sleeplessness, bad dreams, difficulty holding a job, fearful that others are following him, fears of getting unalived, depressive flashbacks, verbally violent on occasion, and caused by the wrongful activities of the defendant King. Okay. So now they're covering. Okay. I don't know. Okay. I'm just going to read it. You know, this is kind of like, I'm starting to treat this like my own personal research diary. Because I have a tendency of like doing this stuff and then I completely forget that I did it. So it's kind of the way to share with you, but I'm kind of keeping it as like some kind of like personal thing. Anyway, Monarch Project. This is from the same article. The horrendous Monarch Project, quote, refers to young people in America who were victims of mind control experiments run by either the U.S. government agencies such as the CIA or military intelligence agencies, writes DeCamp. The story told by the Monarch victims, one of whom is Paul Bonacci, is that they were, Jesus Christ, my neighbor's allowed, is that they were mistreated for the purpose of creating multiple personalities within them. DeCamp continues from his book. He wrote a book. These multiple personalities can be programmed as spies, drug mules, prostitutes, or assassins. I really don't want to get into that right now because I'd wind up doing this until the morning and my back is already killing me. I mean, my chair looks comfortable, but after a while, it really is not comfortable. Anyway, an article by Anton Chaikin, quoted in his book, stating that professionals probing the child victims of Monarch say they are clearly two people, to the number two, responsible elements at work. The government, military, and cooperating satanic. And yes, I'm using that word. I'll explain why. I'm going to keep using it because I'm reading, but we'll go into the satanic panic situation later. Anyway, and cooperating satanic, or more exactly pagan cults, of course. These are multi cooperating cults. They are multi-generation groups whose parents donate their children, that's a thing, who are proudly called the bloodline or simply blood cultists, to be smashed with drugs and electric shock and shaped. Other children are kidnapped and sold into this hell or are brought in gradually through daycare situations. Please look at my other lives. I pretty much covered that. Paul Bonacci and other child victims have given evidence in great depth of the central role of it. I'm not going to say it right. Lieutenant, Jesus Christ, Colonel Michael Aquino, and you'll find out who he is in a little bit, in this depravity, continues Chaikin. Aquino, alleged to have recently retired from an active military role, was long the leader of an Army psychological warfare section, which drew on its expertise in personal practices in brainwashing, Satanism, Nazism, same-sex stuff, and unaliving. The camp's victory in court and the $1 million judgment is a vindication of mind control survivors, Paul Bonacci, Alicia Owens, and others who were falsely imprisoned to keep them from testifying against their abusers. Okay. I'm trying to see if I want to keep going. I do. Okay. This is a lot. Okay. I'm going to throw this in there. I don't care how long this is. I talked about this the other day. This guy named Douglas Dietrich that I like. I didn't meet him. But I found out who he was on Revolution Radio. He's not there anymore. But he has a channel. He does 8 hours. No, about 7 hours of just straight lives. He does it on multiple platforms at once, which is pretty smart. I ain't big enough for that. But he goes. And I don't even have, so I don't even have a co-host. I used to have a co-host, but I sometimes do better with the banter. But like, I feel like you're my co-host. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of in my brain. So anyway, but I feel like like I don't have to have the banter. I can just kind of share. So if it's weird that I just keep reading things, I'd rather have the written information. I don't have to stare at the camera all the time because I'm right here. But you know that I'm just giving you the information that I legitimately tried to look up. That other one was 94 pages. I don't know how many this is. But I try to, mark them out to make things a little bit easier to digest. Okay. According to the sworn testimony of Noreen Gosh, that's the mother of Johnny Gosh, an activist on behalf of missing children whose own 12-year-old son Johnny, a West of Boy. Okay, I already read that. There was no law on the books in Iowa of most any other state in the country specifying that the police would have to act sooner than 72 hours, even though we had 5 witnesses that could describe the car, the man, and various details of the kidnapping. So I wrote the first piece of legislation, which became the Johnny Gosh bill. It's a thing. Gosh alleges, the mom, also alleges that the FBI were active in quashing a TV expose just prior to the America's Most Wanted story going on the air. Within a week or two of airtime, the FBI in Quantico, Virginia, contacted America's Most Wanted and told them to kill the story. Noreen Josh continued. They did not want the Johnny Gosh story broadcast, she said. The only reason the story went on is because John Walsh is a personal friend. They all met up when America's Most Wanted started. Maybe they're going to cover a little bit of his story here. Okay, I don't think they did. But if you know John Walsh, he's from, obviously, America's Most Wanted. And him and his wife, after their kid, he went into the mall. He went to the mall with his kid. And then the kid went missing, and they found the kid. And I want to say, I don't know if anyway, he was unalived and thrown in a garbage can. I think it was behind the mall. And then he went on a crusade. I think America's Most Wanted is still on. Okay, anyway. So she said that he stood up for the story. This woman does not lie. That's what he had said for her. I've known her for years. We're going with the story. You can fire me afterwards. We're doing the story. And they did the story, but the FBI tried to kill it. When DeCamp, the attorney, asked if she knew, she replied, well, of course. It would have opened up the biggest scandal in the United States, which, bigger than the Iran-Contra story, bigger than President Clinton's infidelities, the satanic military MK Ultra mind control connection, continuing her sworn testimony. Noreen Gosh spoke about the MK Ultra program, developed in the 1950s by the CIA. It was used to help spy on other countries during the Cold War because they felt that other countries were spying on us. It was very successful. If you listen to, and that's why I'm going to cover the Hinckley story later, not today, maybe in a couple of days. We have Sirhan Sirhan. We have the dude that killed John Lennon. If you ask conspiracy realists, they will tell you that they were Manchurian candidates, which I will tell you is real. It's real. Anyway, have you ever seen the movie They Stare at Goats? It had George Clooney in it. Like, they throw this shit in our faces, and they just expect us to just be like, oh shit, that's it. Well, I mean, they do that on purpose, right? So they say serious stuff, they put it in a comedy, and then when you think you're trying to make a connection, you're like, where did I hear that before? And you're like, oh, that was a movie. It can't be real. Jesus Christ. They're really good at what they do. Anyway, then there was a man by the name of Michael Aquino. He was in the military. He had top Pentagon clearance. He did. He was a Satanist. He was. He founded the Temple of Set. And he was also a very close friend to Anton LaVey, the late founder of the Church of Satan. I'm going to explain the Satan thing a little bit. The two of them were very active in ritualistic abuse. And they deferred funding from this government program to use this experimentation upon children into multiples. So that when they're questioned, or put under oath or questioned on the lie detector, that unless the operator knows how to question a multiple personality disorder, they turn up with no evidence, which is smart as shit. They use these kids to abuse, to compromise politicians or anyone else they wish to have control of. Gosh, continued the mother. This sounds so far and so bizarre, I had trouble accepting it in the beginning myself until I was presented with the data. We have the proof in black and white. DeCamp asked her, quote, you know that Colonel Aquino was drummed out of the military. He was, replied Gosh. But then there was no charges filed against him. That stuck. The San Francisco Presidio. I don't know what the Presidio means. Presidio. Hold on. San Francisco Presidio. I saw that not so long ago. Of course I did. Anyway, the San Francisco Presidio child abuse allegations. I know that Michael Aquino had been in Iowa. I know that Michael Aquino had been to Offutt Air Force Base in Iowa. I know that Michael Aquino had been to, described by numerous victims at a center of mind control ritual abuse. I know that he had contact with many of these children. Bonacci's story. One of the most heart-rending parts of the court transcript is the testimony of the mind control victim survivor on whose behalf DeCamp sued King. All right, I covered a lot of that. Okay. He's kind of discussing what I already did in my last episode, or last lives. I have those cut up in pieces, so you could just look up Scandal and then Johnny Gosh, I think. Anyway. Okay. So he has a bunch of memories. It's really, really horrific. Okay. So here's the thing about the Satan thing. Okay. So there was a satanic panic thing, right? Have you ever seen the show Stranger Things? They thought Dungeons and Dragons, you know what I mean? Like all of this other stuff. Shit, everybody was like, oh, Ouija boards. You could buy a Ouija board. Like, right now, you could buy a Ouija board. I think it says you can't use it under the age of 12. It, nobody cares, right? Do I believe that there's a whole bunch of stuff out there that's super weird that we don't know about? Seriously, of course I do. Why do you think I'm sitting here talking to you like this? But they put it under the guise of Satan, right? Because they teach you that Satan's a real dude, right? He's got horns, a pitchfork, and like a long red tail. There's, I think, what, like 1 billion people on the planet that believe that that's real. Like real. You know what I mean? Like they think Santa's real. By the way, to look into that, I have an episode called Egregores. I was going to do it about Trump, but I didn't feel like it. Anyway, so they put it all under this one umbrella. And it's pretty much because, why would they change it? Everybody already believes it's real anyway. So they just take people, they tell them it's like some Satan ritual thing, and they do like a pentagram, and anyway, it's ridiculous. But I get why it scares the shit out of people. So when somebody says something like the Illuminati or the Freemasons or Satanists, right? When they say, no. Okay. So here's the deal with that. They say a new world order. I know, okay, that does mean something. Do not get me wrong. I am not saying that doesn't mean anything. It does. It's kind of like a way, it's like using Morse code. So they say this shit on TV, and you have these other people watching it in other countries, right? And they pick up on it. Back in the day, I had like this entire list of keywords, of code words. The site that I used to use is down. I don't know how long it's actually been offline. Anyway, I put this whole list down, explaining the keywords. And I'm talking about, like, there were stupid words like I had lunch on Tuesday at 4 o'clock, and they would say that anything they say on TV, any higher up that's talking on TV, please take this into consideration. When they're talking on TV, and they're saying the most ridiculous shit. You ever hear the stuff that comes out of Cheeto's mouth? And you're like, what? He's not, I mean, he's crazy, but he knows what he's doing. If you listen to my other live, I was like, he's been in the loop. He just went rogue. You know what I mean? It's like you can't really trust crazy people. Like, I don't even know how to explain that. People should kind of know. You know what I mean? It's like if you hire somebody, right, who's really, really evil, and you're like, I want you to, to be my bodyguard. And then they turn around and they kill you. They were crazy when you got them. It's like the story of the woman that picked up the snake. She took care of it or whatever, and the snake bit her. I was like, idiot, I'm a snake. It's kind of like that. So these people, they take the crazy people and they put them in positions of power because they know they're not going to care. They're not going to care about people dying, people going hungry, the shit that I'm talking about now. They just don't care. Okay. The only thing you should take from this right now, I really want to get into this, but this has like a lot of names, and I don't want to do that. So the monarch part thing is real. They have the names of the people. Paul Bonacci actually won the case. I didn't look for it. I'm thinking about looking for it. Clinton did an apology while he was president about mind control, like in a hearing that's on the video. So that's a thing. So all of this stuff is real. Whatever. This is horrific, so I'm not going to do that. I think I've done enough on this. Okay. Anyway, they gave him money. You don't just give money because, you didn't have anything to do with anything. So they found out whatever he said was real, right? Okay. I'm just going to close that out. Okay. I'm not covering the finders today either. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep going, and I'm gonna save this deeper and deeper stuff for like another day. What I might do is I might just record it and put it somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, this document is from, okay, it's talking about 1977, 1997, 2003, 2007, 2017, and 2020. So, and it is talking about DC and blackmail. I was gonna do the thing about the finders. I think I'll do the finders and the Bink Martin trial later. I'm not gonna do that today. Anyway, but they're actually talking about the leader of the finders, and she was pretty much the Epstein of the time. What is it, from 1957 to 1961? Anyway, so let's just kind of just do like a little bit of a recap. All of this stuff is real. I'm gonna skip over it because I want to get deeper into the other stuff that relates to this, and this kind of stuff is something that I've already kind of been overwhelmed, so I don't want to get into it right now. And we're just gonna do this part another day. I promise we will. I can't do this movie. I really okay. It's because I'm thirsty and I'm tired and my back is killing me. But just a tiny bit. There was an article. It's in an archive. It's from an archive. It's not something. So a lot of the stuff that I bring up, it's older, but you have to really find it. So remember I said I have to use a VPN and I use DuckDuckGo. So the reason why I do that is because DuckDuckGo stops the trackers. And when I click on it, it'll tell me who's tracking or who's trying to track, but that they stopped it. And even if they did, they'd find me all over the country because my VPN is bouncing me around. But when you do purposely look for this stuff, they're all at .gov. So, okay, if you're looking for anything and it says, it can have like a stupid long name. It'll have a slash and it says either a .com or .gov. When it says .gov, it's legitimately a government website. Like, it's a free-for-all with your information, putting it there. Don't look into it if it says .gov. It's the same way that, you know, you have like, let's say colleges that you could look up online. So it could say, if it says, I'm going to give you a college degree .com, it's not a legit school. Only accredited schools have like EDU. I don't care who says that. That's not how it is. The tracking's gotten better. I'm telling you. You can look it up, but I'm telling you might find something different. But I found that out over a decade ago. EDU means, obviously, education. But they have so many papers. If you're able to find it, they have some of the best articles from all the Ivy League schools where they were able to put stuff out. And they have some of the best shit. Anyway, so, okay. Anyway, this is in an archive. So this one was written February 17th, 2010 at exactly 3:35 p.m. It's called MK Ultra, CIA Mind Control, Sleeper Cells, and Child Kidnappings. I will cover this another day because this one's almost just as bad as the other one, and I have to learn how to clean these things up. I know a lot of people aren't watching this, but there will be a certain time there's going to be a bot or a troll or somebody, and I have to be careful with my keywords. You know what I mean? It's just a thing. I don't want to do all of this work and then come find out that somebody just reported me, and I've been in good standing since like 2013, so I'm not going to screw that up because I'm not reading shit properly. Okay. And a lot of these, when you go to these places that are archived, or you go to like the Wayback Machine and stuff like that, like you really got to learn how to use it. But, fucking Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. You know how long this would take me? Well, not long at all. But the reason why I'm kind of running through it is because I'd wind up opening 60 new windows, and I can't do that. I already got, I think, 12 or 13 windows open now. I can't do that. But we're definitely going to get into this because it goes all the way back to the 1930s. It goes into a lot of stuff. I'm not doing it. No. All right. No. Oh, okay. So now we're going to go into the tiers. So if you were here in the beginning, I hope, if you were here in the beginning, I kind of said that we were like the overlords of paying attention to human trafficking, which is terrifying. They have a tier system, right? So they have 1, 2, 3. So the first tier are the people that supposedly have like the best thing to, you know, to get rid of trafficking. Part 2 are the people that are kind of working on it. And tier 3 are the people that don't give a shit. Okay. 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 So, okay. So, I'm going to make sure before I say anything. So I have a very old tier list. It's a PDF. I have a really, really old tier list. You know how I know how old it is? One, because it looks old. And for some odd reason, it has so many places. I mean, not like in a bad way or anything like that, but check this out. They have a new one, adapted by the U.S. Department of Trafficking and Persons Report. We talked about that, about the congressional hearings. This one was in 2023. And guess what? This is not as long as the original list. Not even close. And, oh, my bad. Okay. Tier 1 is countries whose government fully meet the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, right? Minimum standards of the elimination of trafficking. I'm just going to name a couple. So we got Australia, the Czech Republic, Lithuania, Sweden, Taiwan, the UK. The US is on this one. The Philippines, which we know that's bullshit. Georgia, Colombia, Cyprus. Okay. Then we have tier 2. So tier 2 are countries whose governments do not fully meet the minimum standards, but are taking significant efforts, right? Just a couple of places I'm going to mention. Oh my God, my foot hurts. Okay. I don't want to put the brace on. I might pause this. I can't even pause lives. I don't want to shut this off. I don't want to put the brace on. Okay. This is tier 2. So we got places like Mexico, Korea, South Korea, Kenya, Nigeria, Sri Lanka. We know all of these allies because I just read this shit to you. There's no way these are in tier 2. The United Arab Emirates, Zimbabwe, Qatar, Croatia, Albania. Okay, we're going to go to the next one. Okay. Then we have the tier 2 watch list. So these are countries whose governments do not fully meet the minimum standards, but are also making efforts to bring themselves into compliance with those standards, and for which the estimate number of victims of severe form of trafficking is very significant or is significantly increasing, and the country is not taking proportional concrete actions, or there is a failure to provide evidence of increasing efforts to combat severe forms of trafficking persons from the previous year, including increased investigations, prosecutions, convictions of trafficking crimes, increased assistance to victims, and the complexity and severe forms of trafficking by government officials. Okay, I didn't go into 3 yet, but take this into consideration. This is from us, not us, sorry, the U.S. This is our tier placement. This is our investigations. This is our stuff. This is us policing all of these places. And I'm telling you, there's about 100 places on here. Now we're going to go to tier 3. So tier 3 are countries whose governments do not fully meet the minimum standards and not making any effort to do so. We got Iran, Russia, China, Syria, Venezuela, Afghanistan, Cambodia, Chad, Cuba, Eritrea? I don't know what that's at. Anyway, so we already read that. Okay. That's the 2023 list. Okay. I have the old list. I mean, the super old list, where we were probably taking shit real seriously. I think here that the tier system still applies, but this one has shit. Okay, triple the amount that the one I told you in 2023 is, right? So either all of a sudden, all of these countries became compliant. Anyway, here's tier 1. I'm just gonna name a couple of places on here. I can't put this list up, but I'm just gonna like randomly say things, and you're gonna know why this is so important. So stick around. Okay, we got tier 1 countries. We got Bermuda, Canada, Denmark, Greenland, Hong Kong, Ireland, Netherlands, New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, really. The United States, of course, they're always going to be in the best tiers. And the Virgin Islands, which we know was bullshit because we just found all this information. Where? The Virgin Islands. Tier 2. And mind you, this is not on the updated list. Shit. Is this on their list? Did I see if that was on the list? Look at me looking at the screen so I can't see you. Okay, wait. Okay, we are on that list. Shit. Okay. They don't match. Of course they don't match. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I was looking for something really specific. Anyway, okay. On the tier 2 list, we got Argentina, Barbados, the British Virgin Islands, Czech Republic, Estonia, Israel, Lithuania, Malta, Mexico, Puerto Rico, the Russian Federation. You know this shit is old, right? It literally says the Russian Federation. Tier 3. We have American Samoa, Bolivia, Brazil. Brazil's really bad. Well, most of these countries are. The Cook Islands, Costa Rica, the St. George Sandwich Islands. This is how detailed that is. Have you ever heard of the Sandwich Islands? Anyway. Serbia and Montenegro. We got St. Vincent Grenadines. Timor. Turkey. Venezuela again in tier 3, even back then. Vietnam, we talked about that. The West Bank and Gaza is on tier 3. Kazakhstan, Georgia, Kenya, Panama, Pakistan. Okay. What did we do so far? There's no way in hell I'm reading this whole list. But what did we pay attention to, right? We got 1, you're being compliant. Tier 2, you're kind of trying, but you're still not being awesome about it. Tier 3, you just don't give a shit. Remember I told you that there's a list from 2023, right? That was undivided. I didn't even try to bother to look up the 2026 list. 1, because it's not up to date at all. Like, this dude's not even trying to find out. And 2, in order to find it, because it's so recent, it's all on the .gov sites. Like, there's no way. 1, I'm getting on it. But there's no way it's going to be public anyway. Here's how I know. I'm going to just check one place on the new list. And see if it's there. Okay, it is. Now, mind you, on the 2023 list, there's special cases. It says here with no tier rating. And the 3 places are Libya, Somalia, and Yemen. I don't know why it says that. I don't know what special cases means. Okay. 1, 2, 3. There's a 4. There is a 4. On this original form, there's a 4. Which means this is the worst of the worst. Now, these countries I'm going to read. And then I'm going to find out if they're on the new one. Okay, we already checked. So, Afghanistan is on... Wait. Okay. So, Afghanistan is on the updated tier 3 list. But the original is on a 4. Which I looked everywhere to find out tier 4. Well, that's how I wound up with this. And I couldn't even tell you where this is from. I don't know what this is. I'm talking about, like, it doesn't give me information. Anyway, it's a PDF. I just can't remember where the hell I got it from. Anyway, here are the tier 4 countries. Afghanistan, Benin, don't know where that's at. if I said I don't know where that's at, I'd be here 100,000 years. Burkina Faso, Burundi, Central African Republic, Chad, Comoros, Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Gambia, Guinea, Haiti, Liberia, Madagascar, Malawi, Mali, Mozambique, Nepal, Nigeria, North Korea. Told you about North Korea a while ago. I'm talking about on this call. Okay. Palau, Paraguay, Rwanda, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Sudan, the Syrian Arab Republic. Again, it's called Syria now, but this is how it says here because the shit's old. Tajikistan, Tanzania, Togo, Uganda, Yemen, and Zimbabwe. They're on a list that right now doesn't exist. There is no tier 4. I'm talking about I looked everywhere. I couldn't even get the information on a tier 4. It was talking about like some other nonsense, but it had nothing to do with this. Okay. And there's 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20. So there's 20 on the tier list, on the new one from 2023. That's in the tier 3. And there is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 36, 37. There's 37 on the tier 4. You know what makes this one, I guess, more important? Is this one's in detail. You know what I mean? Like this is, they tell you the country, but this one kind of goes like really into the little places that I never heard of. Like again, like of course I didn't. But this list, I'm telling you, it's got like 150 things on it. I would be here all day. But we already know that some of them that I did read, they're part of what we're dealing with now. So the fact that they didn't update it is kind of a problem. Like the one that we have now has places we just don't like. Right? So we got Afghanistan, Nigeria, Belarus, Burma, Cambodia, Chad, China, Cuba, Morocco, Djibouti, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Guinea-Bissau, Iran, North Korea, Macau, SAR, Nicaragua, Papua New Guinea, Russia, St. Martin, South Sudan, Syria, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. That's the only list that we have. When there's like 150 on the original list. Anyway, let's keep going. Ugh. Okay. Here's the name. It's called Amintum. Anyway, let me tell you about Amintum. That's the way I'm just going to pronounce it. That's all. Anyway, let's talk about Amintum. Remember we talked about DinoCorp and the military guy that, oh, by the way, the person that he assaulted, that he wanted to get into trouble, was his daughter. And he started when she was 3. I think she said it was like 18 years. I think she said something when she was 15. Okay. Anyway, DinoCorp got bought. DinoCorp. Okay. So Amintum is another place where they have like their own police and all this other stuff, right? Where they don't have to be responsible for anything, like we talked about a little while ago. Okay. So DinoCorp didn't dissolve. It just got renamed. Like almost every place, anytime you see something that's weird, just go back and say who owns it or who's the parent company, because it's never the same one, especially if they've been in trouble like DinoCorp did. Hold on. So Amintum has a significant presence worldwide with various locations that facilitate its operations. The company specializes in providing services in engineering, project management, logistics, and operations across multiple sectors. Key locations include the United States. This includes major offices in D.C., Virginia, Maryland, supporting government contracts and other private sector operations. Then we got the Middle East. They're in Iraq, Afghanistan, Europe. They're in the UK and Germany. And in Asia, it doesn't even tell you where. So I kept trying to find out where specifically they are. Anyway, that was hard as shit. So I went and on their website they have a map, but then it says on the bottom, like in tiny little letters, that the locations might not be accurate. So it just gives you like 5 or 6 places, but the map is covered. So the whole map is green, and then I guess the parts where they're located are like a dark green. I'll probably put this up after I do this. The whole thing is pretty much green. And they're like, oh, we have a couple of locations. They're talking about the U.S. mostly. But the entirety of Canada, the U.S., Mexico, most of the Middle East, and a giant part of Russia, but it looks like more in the UK, the Ukraine area. Mind you, this is just based on me knowing a map. So I'll put up the photo because there's a lot of shit I might be wrong about. Okay, so I put the map, and this is the only places they said. Major hubs, particularly in metro areas. I'll cover that in a minute and tell you where they are. Okay, we got the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Poland. Okay, and then the Middle East, we got Iraq, Afghanistan, South Africa, countries within North and Sub-Saharan Africa. Then we got Australia. Okay, so here, this is where they are in the U.S. This is Edmonton, formerly known as DinoCorp. Alabama, Huntsville, Colorado Springs, Merritt Island in Florida, Odon in Indiana, Aberdeen Proving Ground, Annapolis Junction and Germantown in Maryland, Las Vegas, Nevada, Aiken, South Carolina, Oak Ridge and Tullahoma in Tennessee, Fort Worth, Houston, and San Antonio in Texas, Chantilly, Dahlgren, Falls Church, Fredericksburg, Hampton, Herndon, Norfolk and Virginia, and in Richland, Washington. And in the UK, Cumbria and Warrington. In France, in Provence. Really, that's my best French accent. And Canberra, Australia. That's the only thing I know about where they were. Okay, so they have a presence in South America and in South Sudan. Okay, so they're all up in everybody's business, right? Here's the super fun part. We are their #1 provider of cash. You know why they're in these countries? Because we hired them, the U.S. I know I keep saying we, and that kind of sucks. I hate that. Anyway, we're the ones that pretty much, remember how we're policing the world? So we're also the ones that put these horrible people all over the place. Okay. So this is the one that I was able to find. But this is an African article, like from Africa. Okay. If you're ever looking stuff up, believe me when I tell you, there's places around the world that have their own newspapers, and they're not like us. I mean, some places are, but a lot of places aren't. Even in places that the U.S. tells you they have it, don't believe everything you hear here. Okay, this article came out in 2023, and it says, Edmonton was awarded U.S. Department of State Africa Peacekeeping Program task orders to provide complex training and development in Benin. Is that on the list? It's not on the new list. Are you on the old list? Benin is in the tier 4. It's in the tier 4. It's in the fucking tier Okay, anyway. Okay, engineering and building management in multiple locations throughout Somalia. They're on the list. This critical work, which began in October with 165 million in cumulative total value, will help bolster the capacity in Africa to fight against extremist groups and protect national security. Really? DinoCorp? The company said it received 165 million awards to train the armed forces in the country of Benin and construct military bases for the Somalian National Army, DNAP. The objective of AFRICAP, and it's Africa with a P at the end, is to help strengthen national security and combat extremist groups in African allied countries. One of the tasks ordered will be carried out in Benin, involves training of non-commissioned officers, company-grade officers, and trainers. It also includes basic military training and field exercises. Antemum will also lead expertise for the design and construction of 6 sustainable military installations under the jurisdiction of the Somalian National Army. Quote, our extensive training expertise navigating challenging environments and protection of national security makes us the premier partner of the DOS of the Trans-Sahara Counterterrorism Partnership. Anyway, we also look forward to completing complex design and engineering products around Somalian environments as top partners to Africa. Okay. So you have to ask yourself certain questions. Why is a company that's definitely mostly located here, even though they have places around the world, they're not, I can't find exactly where they're at. I'm assuming there's a lot, but not as many as there are here in the U.S. They're part of the United States. What the fuck are they doing in Africa? That was on I don't mean in Africa. My bad. I mean in the very specific place that is in the tier 4. They're building. They got 165 million? Okay. I'm almost done. I really don't know how long I've been now. I love how they use the word ops. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to look something up that I probably already found. Yep. Okay, I just want to make sure. I don't want to say anything that's wrong, and I probably have it in one of the 62 things that I have open. I just want to make sure that Amentum was a U.S. agency. So it says here, Amentum Holdings is an American government, not America, comma, government. It's an American government and commercial services contractor based in Chantilly, Virginia. The company was formed in 2020 from the spin-out of ICOM's Management Services Federal Group. After Leidos, it is the second largest government services contractor in the U.S. government contracting market. It's public. It's traded on the New York Stock Exchange, the AMTM, the S&P 600 component since September 30th, 2024. Industry, national security, defense, healthcare, engineering. Healthcare, engineering. How do you think Benin got $165 million? That's not the only place they're at. Antemum awarded Department of State contract to uphold democratic principles globally. Antemum awarded $56 million contract to support biological threat reduction missions in Africa. Antemum awarded $165 million DOS contracts to improve national security in Africa, and that was the one I just covered. Anthem awarded contract to reduce biological threats in Africa. Anthem awarded USAID contract for electrical systems upgrades. Anthem selected for $75 billion HHS contract to provide facilities and service for refugees. Anthem awarded $44 million USAID Regional Disaster Response Program. Anthem team receives award recognition for Operation Allies Welcome in New Jersey. Seriously, need I say more? Yeah, I do. Okay. Okay. So, I think I'm going to have to take a second. I thought I brought my water with me, and I didn't, and that's kind of a problem. Anyway. Okay. So, you know how I kept saying that, you know, the Republicans and the Democrats, they're not different. This whole thing is fucking huge. Anyway, this is how you 100% know. When Anthem got that, was awarded the contract called, what is it? The U.S. State Department to advance democratic transitions and principles, human rights, and overall security in critical regions of the world was in 2023. Cheeto wasn't even here. I mean, part of Cheeto's nonsense was in it. The missions of Organization for Security and Cooperations in Europe, in the Balkans, Central and Eastern Europe, and Central Asia. Okay. By the time I finish this, by the time I finish this, please understand that the reason why I'm going through every single piece of this information, and I'm really skipping over a lot of stuff. The reason why I'm really getting deep into this one is because we keep thinking that these files and this information is here. Like, it's just us, right? We know there's a couple of people. It's not. It's entire countries. Do you think that this dude died in 2017? We're talking about the 70s, maybe, whatever. That's when Cheeto started becoming an asset, a Russian asset. And then we're talking about the 80s, then we're talking about the 90s. You're talking about a dude that was just going to a club, that owned an island, who had no real job. Have you seen his emails? He can't even spell. Anyway, I digress. You're telling me that this one person in his cabal got 6 million pieces of information? Million with an M. Or do you think there's a possibility that this is 6 million pieces of information? If we were allowed this whole time to hold everybody's biggest secrets, do you think it's a coincidence that we're fighting with everybody? Do you think that there's a possibility, if you got this far, bravo. Because now I'm going to give you the good shit. I do not know how long I've been here. I should probably check my phone. Fuck that. Anyway, it's me and you. We're fine. Okay. Remember I said earlier that we didn't re-sign the treaty for nuclear weapons, right? And that they asked, Russia was like, no, we need to, let's do this, right? And they don't. Are you serious? I thought they were going to be super excited. They're not. They were like, we need to fix this shit. You know why? Because nobody trusts Cheeto, right? Not with the nuclear code. And then we had Europe, and they were like, we can't trust this dude. What do you think they're really saying? What do you think they're really saying? There's a whole news article talking about him shitting himself in the Oval Office the other day. We have other issues we need to talk about. Do you think that this is the problem? That this is the real problem? That this is the reason why they're disconnecting? This is the reason why they're disconnecting. They're not just holding U.S. secrets, they're holding worldwide secrets. We were the gatekeeper of secrets. This is why they let us stomp all over the place. This is why they do it. Because they know, one, I don't give a shit who this fucking offends. I'm part of the problem too. We don't pay attention. They know we don't. They know we don't care. They give us new iPhones. They give us another reward show. The wrestling is on again. Like, they want to hear a singer with a head of a panda. Man, we just, we are a piece of work. Everybody shits on North Korea, right? First of all, you can't even see it there. They could be living it up. We have no idea. You know what we do? We take information from here, this United States, and our giant bubble of freedom and democracy, and then they tell us what's happening over there, right? Oh, and I'm sorry. And every once in a while, somebody escapes and shows us some horrific video, right? And then they show like the streets are all empty, and then they show you packed schools and factories. First of all, we buy shit all the time. You know, Harley Davidson, we get a lot of the pieces for Harley Davidson from North Korea. We buy so much shit from those people. You know why? Because what they're telling us is happening there is not happening. For all we know, it's like a baby factory. And then we're just pretty much buying everything. That was dark. That just came out. It's late. It's 9:19. It's 9:19. Okay, so apparently I've been here for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Listen, we're cool. So, okay. We know that this is an American company. We know that we're starting to go into more places. We know that a lot of these contracts happened during Biden administration. So this isn't a very anti-Cheeto thing. This is a everybody can go screw themselves kind of thing. They have the president of, quote, critical missions, right? The way that we have the Department of War. You think all of that shit's not for a reason? Of course it is. Of course it is. Everybody's disconnecting, and they're doing it in public. They're telling us publicly. Okay, here's the reason why they're doing it publicly. They're doing it so that when Cheeto starts naming names, please believe that he's going to do that. When names start getting called, and they bring up France, right? What could France say? Cheeto can't be trusted. Cheeto is lying. Cheeto's gonna sue us like he sues everybody else. Cheeto's crazy. Cheeto's old. Cheeto's senile. Cheeto has dementia. Who do you think is gonna be get caught with the bag? Do you think it's gonna be any of these places? Nope. The disconnect from us and everybody else is they know that we have the files. They have to shut it down, and they will do anything to shut it down. The problem is that Cheeto is rogue. And he done got himself in a position that he runs his freaking mouth so much that nobody could believe anything he says. Nobody. You know who's promoting that shit? Content creators, MSN, Fox News, all of them. I don't give a shit where you're coming from. Both sides. They both know something's going on. So yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was talking about that Moon guy, that cult leader who bought the New York Times, the Washington Times. Are you kidding me? Do you understand what's going on here? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, these dudes come banging on my door at some point. But anyway, so right now, oh. Okay, after this, I really gotta go. I might come back, but I don't know yet. Okay. Antimum, wait. Because this is here in the U.S. I want to make sure. Antimum will provide full cycle solutions for from recruitment to deployment and management of U.S. citizens serving in second positions in the OSCE in 12 field operation locations, 3 OSCE institutions, and the Secretariat. Antimum will additionally deploy volunteer personnel as long as short-term election observers. They said this in 2023 with the OSCE's Office for Democratic Institution and Human Rights Act. as the U.S. Seconding Authority and maintained the U.S. Second Personnel and Election Observers database and website. Quote, this win built up proficiency in providing fielded experts and election observers on a project that is unique, and its dual partnership with both the Department of State and the largest security organization in the world, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, said Ken Fox, Senior Vice President of Operations, who just came out today. Said he can't be trusted. The contract, consisting of a 1-year base and 4 annual options, began May 20, 2023 and is performed in Vienna, Austria, and 56 additional participating states. They're in everything. They're in everything. And they started as DinoCorp. All of these other places are .govs. I'm not going there. Nope. I don't think I covered that. Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, because they have something called Human Dimension of Security. Human Dimension. I didn't mean to yell, but the office is called the Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, right? But that doesn't say human rights. Oh my God. It says Human Dimension. Okay. The Office of Democrat Institute and Human Rights is the principal institution, I gotta scroll that up, of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, dealing with the human dimensions of security. The office, originally established in 1991 and under the 1990 Parish Charter of the Office for Free Elections, is still the best known for its role in observing elections, although its name changed from in 1992 to reflect a broadening of its role by the Helsinki Summit, based in Warsaw, Poland. It's active throughout the 57 participating states. It assists governments in meeting their commitments and participating states in the areas of election, human rights, democracy, rule of law, and tolerance and non-discrimination. The office also holds the organization's contact point for Roma and Sinti issues on 4 December, because this isn't written in the U.S., on 4 December 2020, Matteo, of Italy received the nomination for the position of the director. So it was formed in 1990. It's in Warsaw, Poland. It has 180 employees. This is a worldwide thing. I would be a great detective. Thank God I'm not popular enough to get in enough trouble. Well, I will after this. Okay. You know how we have, yeah, I'm definitely having a beer after this. Remember when I kind of talked about the wording that they're using? You know how when you go to a website or whatever and the CAPTCHA? I can't remember what it's called, but it's something really fucked up. But they say, they got the boxes and they tell you to click on a bike or on some stairs or whatever, and sometimes we get it wrong. We're just teaching AI. Like, it's an AI thing. So we're just teaching AI how to recognize certain things. Okay. Or you click this button to prove you're not a robot, right? That's hilarious. Where did I get this from? Okay, this is the organization that I just told you that started in Warsaw, Poland. I didn't go to countries. Okay. This is called, and this is from their website, Combating Trafficking in Human Beings. All states are affected by trafficking in human beings, not of human beings. Please understand the words that they're saying. In human beings. A complex, widespread, and multifaceted crime and human rights violation, the organization has developed a broad portfolio of acts to fight against this crime. We already read all that. That means absolutely nothing. It just means that they're all involved. Anyway. I'm on their website. I'm not reading from anything else. It says, our challenge. Many factors can affect security and stability, often across borders. Population segments of the 3 dimensions. It says population segments or the 3 dimensions. This isn't me making shit up. This is what I'm reading, what they're saying. So we already have, what the hell did I say it? In human beings, and now they're trafficking in human beings is a modern form of slavery, blah, blah, blah. We already know what they're into. Anyway, but now they're calling how they're doing it the 3 dimensions. So it says here, and this was in 2003, a comprehensive approach to trafficking in human beings requires a focus on bringing to justice those responsible for this crime. Listen to the wording. This isn't a person. I'm just going to, and on carrying out effective measures to prevent it while maintaining a humanitarian and compassionate approach and rendering assistance to its victims. Okay. Is it just, please leave it in the comments, by all means. Is it not weird that it says inhuman beings? Or maybe I'm just tired. I don't know. Nope. It says OSCE Action Plan to Combat Trafficking in Human Beings. I really want that. I really think it might be me. No. I'm going to just, hold on. There's no way. Hold on. Maybe I'll see if it's going to correct me. Oh, shit. Every time I do something, it takes me somewhere else. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's here again. Plan to combat trafficking in human beings. It says, action plan to combat trafficking in human beings. Disclaimer, this is not responsible for, nor does it necessarily endorse its content. Any views expressed are solely those of the author or publisher. Yeah, I'm not reading that right now. Oh, shit. In human beings. I know that's not right. Ugh, nobody's here. I definitely would have been like, hey, seriously, if I'm bugging out, please say so. I don't think I am. There's no way that I'm just screwing that up. There's no way. There's no way. I'm going to save the document. There's no way. Yes, save the document. There's no way. There's no way. No way, right? Okay. There's no way. Anyway, see, I zoned out. All right, let's keep going. Because I'm definitely not doing a live tomorrow. I can guarantee that. So we already got that in human beings. Hold on. Because I wound up somewhere else. So prevention and detection of trafficking in human beings, right? Along the rail routes. Okay. There's no way I'm getting into that. Okay, so we already know this is a worldwide thing. We already know human rights nonsense is not what we think it is. We already know that this is possibly, I'm not saying that it is. I am saying that it definitely might be. The reason why, I forgot about this. This is the same place that I was talking about. Okay, remember how I told you they kept saying in human beings? So it's here, it says special representative and coordinator, like not coordinator, it's coordinator for combating trafficking in human beings. The role of this place, participating states, is combating orphanage trafficking. This publication seeks to shed light on the roles participating states in combating orphanage trafficking, a pressing yet overlooked form of child trafficking. It highlights the pathways through which children are trafficked into institutions, analysis both the demand and supply side that fuels orphanage trafficking, examines the policies that perpetuate the you know what I mean, of children, and showcases best practices for reducing the exploitation and abuse fueled by the orphanage industry. Okay. This is, okay. Unless this is not, okay, this company is in Europe. They are in every, I swear to God, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. Because I've been trying to tell people this shit forever and nobody ever listens. I mean, they're listening now, but here's the same company. Now, mind you, I'm calling it a company. It's not an organization, it's a company. To me, it's a company. I'm just going to call it what I think it is, and I'm saying it's a company. So, there's the same place. It's saying it's in Europe. So, I'm just going to say that maybe that's why they're using the wording, but it's not like they don't speak English. Anyway, if anybody got this far, please tell me if I'm bugging out. Okay, then we have this, still the same place. Then they have survivor-informed indicators for the identification of victims and survivors of trafficking in human beings. Adults and children from any cultural, socioeconomic, ethnic, or religious background can become victims of trafficking in human beings. Oh, that's what THB means. Okay, victims. Never mind. Victims may have had nurturing families, access to secondary and tertiary, education or professional careers before being trafficked. But understanding any pre-existing vulnerabilities should also give a better understanding of the categories of people most often targeted by traffickers. These survivor-informed indicators for identifying victims aim to help address the gap in identification tools by reflecting the knowledge, professional expertise, and lived experiences of survivor leaders. Okay. You already know what all of that meant, right? I really wish I could fix my lighting. Okay. So we have all of that. Okay. I'm just going to skip this. And this. And this. Okay. Anyway, so I already covered that. Like I said, these are the places that are seriously disconnecting from the U.S. So keep that in mind. Including today. Okay. Why do I have so many windows of this? Okay. I didn't go into all of the other stuff, but they're making millions upon millions upon millions upon millions. Antimum. Yeah, it seems like we just given them everything. Anyway, I don't want to get in that. Okay, so now we have something called, and yes, I'm going to keep on going for, I think I'm going to stay till 10. Okay, can't remember where I found the word from. I'm sure it was somewhere that I kind of covered. It's called human security, right? Human security is a paradigm for understanding global vulnerabilities whose proponent challenges the traditional notion of national security through military security by arguing that proper referent for security should be at the human rather than the national level, and that people-centered view of security is necessary for national, regional, and global stability. The concept emerged from a multidisciplinary understanding of security which involves a number of research fields, including development studies, international relations, strategic studies, and human rights. I only covered a tiny bit of that. Okay. Okay, so you can read this in Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. It says, "Welcome to the United Nations." What is human security? This is on the the United Nations website, with their nice little triangle logo, which is not the same one that it should have. The UN doesn't have that. The UN has the circle with the flat earth in it and the, I want to say the floor? I don't know, the things that go around it, whatever. Here on their website, they have a triangle with a circle and it has 4 little things, and it says freedom from want, freedom from fear, freedom to live in dignity. Doesn't that sound really nice? Anyway, what is human security? And this is on this site. For many people, today's world is an insecure place, full of threats on many fronts. Protracted crisis, violent conflicts, natural disasters, persistent poverty, epidemics, and economic downturns impose hardships and undercut prospects for peace, stability, and sustainable development. Such crises are complex, entailing multiple forms of human insecurity. When they overlap, they can grow, spilling into all aspects of people's lives, destroying entire communities and crossing national borders. As noted in General Assembly Resolution 66-290, quote, human security is an approach to assist member states in identifying, addressing widespread and cross-cutting challenges to the survival, livelihood, and dignity of their people. It calls for, quote, people-centered, comprehensive, context-specific, and prevention-oriented responses that strengthen the protection and empowerment for all people. Which people are those? Okay. Yeah, they're saying that while in the same page, it says promoting multi-stakeholder partnerships, right? Including, home security, quote, home security draws together expertise and resource of a wide range of actors from the UN system, government, private sector, like Antimum, the social society, and local communities. This allows for seizing synergies that capitalize on the comparative advantages of various stakeholders. See, I don't even know if I want to keep going. This is why I'm doing this, because I really need to keep this. I gotta go get my other work. I just realized today that my lives only stay for 30 days and they get deleted. So I gotta go back and get all my lives and download them on the computer. I thought I did, but I didn't. And I don't want to lose any of this. Oh, here's something fun. Okay. Programs applying, this says proven value for implementing priority agendas. Programs applying the human security approach and supported by the UN Trust Fund for Humanity have a well-established track record and proven value, I'm sure. They have reinforced United Nations support to member states in strengthening resilience to climate change and natural disasters, promoting peaceful and inclusive societies, addressing underlying causes of persistent poverty, and bolstering the transition from humanitarian crisis to longer-term sustainable development. As such, the application of human security can significantly enhance actions taken by the United Nations and its partners to fully realize the transformative promise of the 2030 Agenda. The New York Declaration of Refugees and Migrants, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, and the Sustaining Peace Agenda. I don't even know what to say about that. Just look up 2030. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. This is going to be your homework. Look up the 2030 Agenda. This is UN.org. I'm not telling you a lot of sites, but I want you to go see this one. UN.org. Go to the About Us, and then it's the first thing there, except I refuse to read all of this. I mean, I probably will tomorrow. At the About Us, the very first one is what is human security? The second one is human security milestones in history. That's going to be good. Human security unit. That's going to be good. Excuse me. I got to skip that. That is frustrating as hell. Don't worry, I'm almost done. Kinda. Okay. Okay. Can't remember how I got into this, but I did. Wait. I think I know why. No, I got into something else. My bad. I opened this like 20 times for some reason. At least my tabs are closing. That's good. Okay. Where did I get this from? Why is this here? I found something and I can't. Oh, I know what I found. Okay. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to. Damn. This is going to be. I can't. Sorry, I'm reading this and I don't want to. Okay, I'm burnt out with these subjects. I mean, I get it. I'm having my moments, and I hope that you guys are learning something. Seriously, even if not, or even if nobody ever sees this, I'm definitely keeping it. Well, of course I'm keeping it, but I mean, like, I think I really went down a rabbit hole today. I really do. I really do. This is a lot. It's only going to get... Wait. I got 15 minutes. Okay. I refuse to go any longer than that. Seriously, I'm not. No, I'm talking shit. I probably will. Anyway. I'm not going into how I got this. I know how I did. I just don't want to go back. But I have 15 minutes and I kind of want to cover this. So there's a documentary, of course. By the way, all I do is watch documentaries. Like, especially the really, really old ones. Hey, if you want to see some good ones that are, you know, like 20 years old, you know, when the news actually, you know, put out new news. So anyway, you know, it was one of the greatest programs that still have their stuff that you can watch it for free. Frontline on PBS. Oh man, I love their stuff. They're in your face. They tell you the truth. Well, you know what I mean. Anyway, a lot of the stuff that I watch takes me into older stuff. Like, I don't watch anything really new. There's a documentary. It's called, I don't know when it came out. Anyway, it's called Cannibal Cop, right? It's a documentary. Yes, it's called Cannibal Cop. It's not a B movie. Anyway, it's about this cop from New York, right? He went into like these chat rooms and about, you know, cannibalism. So he winds up talking to like the FBI or something. Some dumb shit. He goes, he gets arrested, and he gets charged. He didn't do anything. All he did was talk about it. Like, he would go in, I mean, he went into great detail about what he wanted to do. And it was completely gross. He was like talking to somebody, or talking to a group of people that were also into the cannibal nonsense. And they were talking about like scenarios, like he was going to get some woman from like a hallway, you know, and then take her and eat her. Even though the case really didn't make like this big thing, it should have been, because you can't arrest people for what you think they might do, right? I actually went to the movies to go see Minority Report before I left New York with Tom Cruise in it, and they were talking about something called pre-crime, and the reason why I kind of remember it is because me and my friends, we went, and then I guess we didn't pay attention to the time. We went, we're watching the movie, right? And we're all looking at each other, and I see my best friend Beto, and I was like, dude, like, are you watching what the hell is going on? We got there like 10 minutes before the movie ended. We watched the entire ending. We're sitting there like, you know, everybody looks like they're really into it. And we're like, I don't know any of those people. And then the credits start rolling. I was like, oh shit. So anyway, we stayed to watch the rest of it. Here's why I brought it up. There is something that I'm sure I opened in one of my tabs that led me to this. Okay. The world is changing. Please pay attention to it. We're not in the make America great again situation. We're not in the make America healthy again situation. We are straight up in 1984. This isn't a joke. This is why I'm probably not going to do a show until the weekend. This has burnt me out. Like, I mean, look, like, I'm happy that I do this stuff. I really am. But I do get burnt out. Sometimes I'll engulf myself in research and just go on like a 6-month hiatus where I'm just like eating popcorn and still researching but not doing shows. And I'm trying really hard not to do that. I am trying really hard not to decide that I'm just going to take a huge break. Because one, I don't want to. And two, if I wouldn't have got that message, I probably would have taken a break. I think that really, like, did something for me. I think it did. Like, I just felt better. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm really not talking in the void, you know? You know how hard it is to be able to talk into a camera? All I gotta do is look. I'm just looking at my face. Oh, and a screen, but I'm looking at my face all the time. It's really difficult to get used to. So, and my lighting sucks. Hey, once I win the lotto and I get $1 million, I'll fix my fucking lighting. But right now, this is what you get. And I'm trying to keep it so that my glasses aren't glaring all the time. See? I'm zoning out. Okay. We're at 11 minutes. All right. All right. Predictive crimes. I'm not going to get into eugenics. I'll do that another day. We have predictive policing technologies. Let me tell you how fun this is. We're currently utilizing to predict and prevent crime. These predictive policing tools leverage algorithms and data analytics to identify patterns and trends in criminal activity. Here are some key technologies and methods being used. Data analytics. After this, I'm done. Statistical models. These models analyze historic crime data, identifying hotspots and predicting what crimes are likely to occur in the future. I'm going to cover this really, really quick. Okay. Did you hear how I just said that? Identifying hotspots and predicting what crimes are likely to occur. That's where, I don't want to use this word. I came from the ghetto, the fucking ghetto. This is where they put the projects. This is where they put liquor stores instead of supermarkets. This is where the crack epidemic starts, you know, or the heroin. Except the fentanyl kind of thing happened in the Midwest, which I thought was weird. But they're trying it everywhere. Anyway, don't think this is accidental. This shit isn't being funneled in from everywhere else. No, we make it here. We sell and we trade it. We used to do that with, what's that thing called? No. Yeah, I can't remember. Opium. We used to do that. Come on. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, everybody else is making drugs. Get out of here. Anyway, that's the ghetto. That's where poor people, that's where trailer parks are at. That's where they take people and they leave them with nothing and then they watch them. They watch what they're doing. You know what I mean? Every time they get people riled up. Look at the difference today. Every other time it was like black people rioting and burning shit down, right? Even though Minnesota's not burning anything down, they definitely didn't expect Minnesota to do what they're doing. Never in a million years did they think that shit was going to fly. And I think that that's why they're trying to egg people on. Because it's a different environment. They didn't calculate this. They saved it for black and brown people. And they put it in a different place and they don't know how to act. They didn't prepare for that. I think that's exactly why shit's going down the way that it is. And I'm just going to say it. Oh, my nose. I'm just going to say it. You can't lose your shit on a bunch of white people. They already did it twice. I'm saying that if this happened in South Central LA, if this happened where I was born and raised in the South Bronx, they would have took those guns and they would have killed a bunch of people at once. It would have just been a straight up firing squad and nobody would have said shit. Nobody would have said anything. They'd be like, they had it coming. They're doing that now with these two, with Renee Good, Kenneth Porter, the one that got killed on New Year's Eve. And I think 38 other people got killed since late last year in custody with ICE. Anyway, so they can't just mow down a bunch of people. I'm sorry, a bunch of white people. They can't do that. They just can't. They're already seeing the repercussions of this. Again, you gave people guns, they were crazy people, and they went rogue. I think they can't reel them in. Do you know why I believe that? Because even though they're in trouble for this, they're still dragging people out. They're still beating people. They're still shooting people right now. They're still doing it. Shits are not given by these people. You cannot trust crazy people. You can't. Anyway. Oh, this is good. Sorry, my nose is killing me. Machine learning. Algorithms learn from past crime trends to improve accuracy in predicting potential future incidents. What is that? That's when No King's Day make a mass email. I always wonder, why the hell do you do that? Do you not know that everybody's on the internet? So they tell you the location, they tell you the time, they tell you everything. That's their predicting algorithm. So they find out where everybody's going. We already know they have all the information. I don't have to get in that shit. Okay, here's the fun part. Geospatial analysis, mapping tools, geographic information systems like the GIS. Now, I know about the GIS. I have property out in Missouri, right? And the GIS will literally give you your exact location, right? It'll show where your property is, where the line's at. It'll tell you what's underneath there. It'll tell you where the bedrock's at. It'll tell you where the water's at. It'll tell you everything. But it's as specific as it possibly can get. Like, you can't hide from that. Not from that. Okay, they're using that system to help law enforcement visualize crime data spatially, allowing them to allocate resources effectively based on predicted crime locations. Are you kidding me? We already know social media monitoring. Okay, sentiment analysis. Tools analyze social media. I got 5 minutes. Tools analyze social media posts for emerging threats or signs of potential violence based on public sentiment. What did I just say? Facial recognition, we know that. Some systems use facial recognition to identify suspects from video feeds, potentially preventing future crimes by increasing the risk of apprehension. You already know what that means, right? They see you, they go get you. The end. Public records and open data. Integration of various databases, combining data from various public sources, including court records, school records, and social services, assist in identifying at-risk individuals in the area. Who do you think they're talking about? They're talking about poor people. They're talking about mentally ill people. They're talking about addicts. They're talking about the homeless. At risk. Okay. Now we got risk assessment tools. So it's the crime risk scores. These tools evaluate individuals or communities based on their risk of involvement in crime, allowing law enforcement to intervene proactively. We are fucked. I don't want to say what I'm thinking, but believe me when I tell you, I'm glad I did this. I needed to do this. I did. I really did. This helped me too. I hope it helps you. I really do. I hope that when you get into stuff like this, even though there's a lot of ethical things going on here, it's easier to ignore the distraction because you know what's behind the curtain. You know what I mean? That's why I got the little rabbit going in the hole. This says there's no coming back. If you got this far, if you watched this, you don't have to like, don't share, don't follow. I'm not saying any of that shit anymore. I just hope you took something from this. I hope you really did. I know it was a lot. It was a lot for me. I don't think I ate. I think I ate today. I don't know. Anyway, here's the last part. While these technologies aim to enhance public safety, they also raise ethical concerns, including potential biases in data, no duh, invasion of privacy, no duh, and the risk of over-policing certain communities. And where do you think that's going to be again? Trailer parks, the ghetto, where there's poor people or people they don't like. It's really come down to that. Like, everybody who was poor, because, anyway, I'm not getting into that. I only got a couple of minutes. Anyway, now it's becoming the domestic agitators, right? Now they're part of the problem. Now we're part of the problem. I'm part of the problem. Okay, critics argue that reliance on predictive models can lead to discrimination and misuse. Oh my God, you know I didn't have to read that. Leveraging technology, law enforcement, communities, and that's pretty much it. So let's cover the end part. I got 1 minute. I'm still going to do it. Let's cover the last part. That's it. We covered, hold on, seriously, this is how much shit we covered today. We covered, of course I closed it. Okay, we covered the billionaire thing. We covered DynaCorp. We covered Edmonton. I swear to God I can't. We covered the tier system. We found out there's not only 3, but there's 4 and nobody's talking about, and the government refuses to discuss it. We know that the list is actually like 150 and they're just showing like maybe 30? I don't know. Yeah, I think I counted it was like 30. And that was just in the tier 3. They refused to recognize tier 4. We talked about Johnny Gosh. We talked about MK Ultra. We talked about the Franklin scandal. Oh, we talked about a little bit of MK Ultra because I didn't want to keep reading into that. I'm so tired. We talked about the tier system. We talked about the trafficking. I didn't cover this. We did cover DynaCorp and the military and the investigation that was going on there. We discussed all the countries where Anthem/DynaCorp is doing and where they're at. How we've been giving them, again, this is the same way that back in 2010, we covered McKinney, we covered Donald Rumsfeld. This is how back then they couldn't find $2.3 trillion. This is the kind of shit. When they're like, oh, we're just, doing this or we're doing that. We're not, no. Even though I brought up USAID a couple of times with Anthem, that's not where the money's going. Okay, because I read 165 million, but in here it says 221. So they're not giving the number. They can't even put the numbers correctly in their own fucking articles. So we already know that that's not true. You know what I really want to find out? Like, for real. Like, what is the deal with Africa? Like, I know they have, like, a lot of resources. But seriously, like, they are super building in this place. Like, everything. Everything. They're in everything. They're building how many bases? I think I said 12? 12 bases? If they're building 12 bases over there, right? We're the ones sending them over there. And we're peacekeeping? It's a peacekeeping program? Why are we training them like soldiers? Why are we giving them guns? What is that? Okay, if we're bringing democracy, we're bringing roses and fucking rainbows, why are we giving them guns? Why are we teaching them to, protect national security from who? From what? These are the questions you have to do. You have to think about. And remember Benin. That's the place that they're at right now. They just got awarded this thing. Because this came out in 2023. Mind you, Biden was in office. They're all in it. Anyway. And then they're in the tier 4 group. They're in the tier 3 group for the Department of War. But the original one, the one I have, has Benin in the tier 4. Okay, what else do we cover? Because they're so big. And they were contractors and they're, the laws don't apply to them. Oh, and by the way, remember the first guy we talked about, the one that I was able to talk about that was like vice president of DynaCorp before Anthem bought them? The reason why he came up in the news like 5 or 6 years ago, even though this shit happened in the 80s, is because they wanted to find out, one, he didn't go to jail. Two, he's still getting a military pension. We're still giving him money. Like, now. He's still alive. We're giving him money. And everybody's like, I'm like, we're trying to take Mark Kelly's pension and we're letting this guy just go scot-free and then we're paying him? Come on. That's like that dude, Bavino? Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, he got fired. We made it. No, we didn't. He's probably kicking it up with $100,000 shooting the shit. He's probably trafficking people right now. Come on. We gotta bump shit up. You know that, right? Anyway, we did the tears. We did everything. Okay, let's do the outro. Okay. You can see the progression from me being comfortable to me just kind of, I'm a mess. I've been here for 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. I'm going to go have dinner. Definitely going to have a beer. Like I said, I'm no longer going to say follow, like, share. I don't care. I mean, I care, but you know what I mean. Not in that way. I mean, just taking the information. If you want to share it with somebody else, share it. Or you could just listen to me and then you could just kind of say it. You know how many people I've known in my life that have done that? My ex used to do that. He used to listen, I do all this research, I tell him everything, and then he would tell a bunch of people, but he would never say it was from me. He would make it seem like he did the research. I'm like, really gotta stop doing that shit. Because he couldn't like really get to detail because he didn't look it up. Anyway, with that being said, I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that we're learning because I learned a bunch of stuff today. Thank you for being patient. If you have ADHD or you're on the spectrum and you like watching this, you don't have to comment, but I'm happy that you're here. And I'm happy that, or you're neurodivergent, whatever. Or you're just having a really great day and you just feel like being absolutely, sitting with me and having an absolute moment of seeing a crazy lady talk about the craziest shit that won't make sense. That you know damn well you're not going to hear anywhere. I swear. I always try to make sure I go outside the box. And half of the time, I'm just like, I think that's why I want this stuff so bad. I don't know. Happy that you're here. You're hanging out with Trinity again at 7 o'clock. I will not be here tomorrow. If you want to come back. I usually put down maybe 5 or 6 hours before I do a show. It's usually at 7 o'clock, but I don't put down my topics until earlier. Facebook adds people, like sends them invites, and I don't know how to really control that, because if I don't send like the all button, I would have to go through 440 people, and I'm not going to do that. So I already left this out there. I know anyway, I don't even have to discuss it. If you want, be over here with me. You do not have to be in the room. I noticed that today. Thank you to that person. Chef's kiss. Mwah. Thank you for making my day. Shit, you made my month. So thank you for that. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys. What's today? Wednesday? Friday? Friday. Probably Friday. Okay. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm so happy that I was able to be more comfortable with you guys today. And I'll see you Friday. Okay.